覚めない夢を見たくはないかい。あなたのためだけの絵本があるよ。星が見えるよ。空も飛べるよ。好きなことを選んでよ。調子はどうですか？空は自由に飛べましたか？救い魔法が出せましたか？全部夢の影で今生きてることってなんだろうな。生きてる人は怖いからな。触れないものを信じるのは馬鹿のすることと聞きました。出来損ないでもいいですか？優しい愛をもらえますか？どうしようもない人間だって意味を語りますか？夢の続きを知りたいのかい？誰も見たことない絵本をめくりなさい。それがあなたの望む世界だとしよう。夢の終わりで眠れば教室の廃材歌手に浮かぶやっぱとしたテーマの嫌なダメな人。一人ぼっちを選べない私のバカげたモノローグ。不幸自慢していいですか？最後までちゃんと聞いてますか？なんでも誰もいなくなったら意味がないんですか？夢の続きを知りたいのかい？夢の終わりを知りたくないのはあなたの望む世界じゃないから。こんな続きを愛してほしい。ちょっとばかり生きてみようかな。でも明日が怖くて引きこもる。こんな僕でごめんね。パパとママにありがとう。学校に行くのはもうやめた。会話をするのが怖くなる。こんな毎日が続くの。明日もきっと一人きり。でもね、まだね、もっと生きたい。君が大好きだから。過去も今も未来のことも全部愛しているよ。愛されなくてもいいよ。期待 されないくらいガラクだから、周りと比べると自分が弱く見えるけど、大丈夫、僕なら大丈夫、そう願っていたの、いつの日だっけな。でもね、まだね、もっと生きたい。君が大好きだから、過去も今も未来のことも全部愛しているよ。夜の星もいつかは消える。僕はうまく生きれるのかな。今日も月があたりを照らす。これが僕の生きた証だ。明日には生きているのかな。明日から
え Sorry, I could hear myself. Hello. It's quiet time. Hi, it's quiet time. Oh. Hi, I wanted to try out maybe some spooky internet story reading today, because I thought it might be fun. Uh, are these things on the side, like, distracting? Should I turn them off, or are they cool? Also, my internet keeps dropping frames, so I don't know why it's doing that. It's cool? Okay. Stop. Help with the ASMR style? Okay. I'm gonna turn the gain up on myself a little bit. Turn it up to like 10. I had it on 5. Is that a good volume? I'm trying to get all of the volume stuff, like, good. Turn the rain up. I have rain. I have rain and a playlist of horror game ambience and music. I've got like I've got Silent Hill, I've got Yume Nikki, I've got Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion Lost in Vivo, and SCP Containment Breach. I've got a spooky playlist that we're going through. Might be a little bit too loud. This is really hard. On the laptop not being annihilated, yeah, dude. All my stuff is there. And I'm very happy about it. Is that good, or is the music kind of feels too loud, but it might not be. I can turn it down a little bit. Hi, Greg. Hello, hello. I need to turn on, soy. Give me a sec. VTS Pog. Need to get soy in here. I think I turned him down. I turned him down to like 15. We'll see when the reading starts. Okay. I'm trying my best to keep my voice like relaxing and quiet, but I don't really know if I'm doing it good. Connections. Start 2D VNyan. There he is. There's the boy. I'm debuting his 3D model. I'm debuting his 3D model next Saturday. If you guys would be interested in coming and seeing him in his new form, and I'm very excited about it. He's a very squishy little guy, and I love the way he moves and the way he talks. Oh,
ASMR, huh? Well, Chunch, if you want some advice to make those tingles flow, here's what I've got. 1. Pick the right triggers. Find sounds that make you feel all tingly inside, whether it's gentle tapping, soft whispers, or soothing water sounds. 2. Find your comfy spot. Settle down in a cozy place where you can fully relax and focus on the sounds. 3. Mindful breathing. Take slow, deep breaths to enhance the relaxation and immerse yourself in the ASMR experience. 4. Experiment and explore. Don't be afraid to try different ASMR videos or triggers until you find what works best for you. Everyone's tingles are unique. Remember, the key to ASMR is finding what brings you relaxation and joy. Now go forth and embrace the tingle-filled world of ASMR.
dang, dude. You're really cooking. Let him cook, dude. Fuck. That was good, Soy. Thank you. He actually gave, like, real and good advice. Why is my internet being so bad? I think it might be because I have my laptop connected to the Wi-Fi that I'm on right now. I could go turn it off real fast. Would you guys mind? Would y'all mind, if I went and turned my laptop Wi-Fi off? I have it on right now because I'm transferring all of my stuff from my old D drive onto my new one. Before it? Okay. Check your bitrate. Yeah, I know, I'm trying. It's usually not like this. I think it's because I have my laptop connected to my Wi-Fi, so I'm gonna get up real fast and try and maybe fix that. Okay, just give me a sec. Okay. I'll be back in just a second, okay? I'm gonna mute myself. Better? Is that any better? Or is it still being shitty? It's in the green right now. So I think it's okay. Hello. I'm back from being across the room. Oh no, it went into the red again. It went to... Okay. It completely dropped to 0. I think it should be fine, right? I don't know. I don't know, I'm sorry. Okay, maybe... Maybe I can connect to... Another Wi-Fi network. Maybe I can connect to 5. Okay, stream might drop for a sec. So just be patient. Okay. I'm on another one. Maybe this one. Oh fuck. Oh, I forgot. Forgot that changing Wi-Fi changes my IP address. Hold on. And now my thing isn't connect. My my motion capture isn't connected. Give me a sec. Okay, it's that. So copy. Hi, Pato. Be that. Okay. We're good now. That I haven't seen it go into the red since I connected to the new Wi-Fi. Let's see, spell check. Can I... Okay, wait. Can I make a suggestion for the title of the clip? I think I might have already, uploaded that one as a short. And I think I titled it, Two-Face Lovers, but it just keeps getting faster. I was asking if I could suggest a title for the clip. My thing dropped again. Okay. So... Wait, why? Why are you changing it? I wanted... I wanted to suggest a title. Oh... Okay. Anyway... I'm gonna start, so sorry. Just do it, do whatever you want. I'm I'm really nervous. I'm sorry. Thank you for the follow. Oh, you can't even see the... You couldn't even see the alert. Let's put it over here. Let's put it over my face. How do I... Wait. Transform... Center horizontal. Okay. So what I wanted to do for this is just, go through r/nosleep and read some of the top-rated stories of all time. r/nosleep... I have dogs, and I don't think they understand what ASMR is. So if you hear them barking, I'm sorry. They're dogs, they do that. You can't? Okay. So Mochi was screaming. I just wanted to go through r/nosleep and read some of the top-rated stories. The thing about r/nosleep is that it's kind of Reddit's version of creepypasta.net. It's just a subreddit where people upload their spooky stories that they come up with, and none of them are real. None of them are real, but one of the rules of the subreddit is that if you ever comment on it, you are supposed to respond as if it actually happened, and there's no like debunking stories or anything like that. You're not allowed to do that, and there's no like asking for proof or anything. But just rest assured, all of them are fake. So don't freak out. There is a section of, I think there is a subreddit that has real scary stories. Like professional wrestling, yeah. Professional wrestling, but for online spooky stories. There is a subreddit with the real scary stories, if that's what you're into, called r/let's not meet. And they're usually spooky encounters with scary people. But I'm gonna read r/nosleep because those are more entertaining and less scarring because they're not real. So let's go to r/nosleep fast. I'm gonna stay on this screen, by the way, so a lot of my redeems will not work. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna open No Sleep right now. Oh, there's a lot of... Oh, they have like... Hey Bear. They have like, contests. There's, July winners. And they're still voting on ones from August. Okay. Let me... I will scan the July winners. My boyfriend and his friends have a monthly game night, and last night I disrupted their sinister tradition. It was traumatic enough to win Best Story of the Month. So, this one is the best story of July, apparently, as it was voted. Okay. Would you guys like for the text to be on screen? It's fine if not, it's just that, the text will have to cover up, either... It will have to cover up, all the recent things right here, like recent donator, recent subscriber. It'll have to cover up all that. Would you guys like for the text to be on screen? I don't mind either way. Hold on, I'm gonna turn the lights down in Shoost a little bit. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Oh, get it a little bit darker. No preference? Okay. I will just read it on my own and not have the text. Let's see what let's see what glow does actually. Whoa. Oh, that's neat. I like that. Oh. There. Okay. How was that? Does that look good? I think it does. Okay. So this one is called. Let me drag it over here so I don't have to. Um. I don't have to look over at my other monitor. This one is called My Boyfriend and His Friends Have a Monthly Game Night, and last night I disrupted their sinister tradition. It was my 5th date with Kevin. A nice, albeit somewhat awkwardly silent, dinner and drinks in his apartment, followed by the main spectacle of the night. Monthly game night with some of his closest buddies and plenty of booze to go around. Doing ASMR? Yeah! I'm usually really loud. So I figured this would be a welcome change, maybe. I want to zoom in a little bit more. Yeah. Look at me. I'm all big. Getting close. Listen to the spooky. We hadn't been going out for very long and didn't know each other before matching on Tinder a few weeks after I had first moved here. So I was excited to finally meet some of his friends and hopefully make a couple of my own. Oh, Milky, yeah. Let me do this real fast. I'm switching. I only have 2 monitors, so I'm switching windows around. Hi. Trying to get a good angle. Okay, I think that's good. Ready to go? He asked me, breaking my gaze that was fixed on his ornate bookshelf and TV display in the living room. I smiled, taking his arm, and followed him out the door. I had never dated anyone like Kevin before. Usually, I land goofy or geeky guys who I can laugh with for hours, and who just don't care that I don't always wear the cutest clothes, because our dates were mostly just us watching nerdy movies in sweatpants anyways. But Kevin was the kind of guy who I'd imagine ends up with your stereotypical high school prom queen. Certainly not me. He was incredibly attractive with a swoop of soft amber brown hair, a clean-shaven, sculpted jawline, soft tan skin, and defined muscles. What is this, a fanfiction? While I couldn't describe exactly what his job was, I knew it had something to do with finance, and for some investment firm I couldn't name headquartered here in New York, and I knew it paid enough for him to afford his large and luxurious apartment, while still taking me out to expensive restaurants and nightclubs on our dates. Though he could be distant at times, and he wasn't as warm or lighthearted as I usually prefer, he was charming, full of interesting stories and just the right amount of playful affection. Plus, he'd been here for a long time, and I was hoping he could show me around Brooklyn and introduce me to the right crowd. If you're in Brooklyn, I don't think there is a right crowd. You're seriously gonna love it, he told me once we were in the car. There was a grin spread across his face, but his eyes were locked on the road. Being in such a large, bustling city full of nightlife and tourist attractions... Ugh, my head itches. I found it hard to believe that a man who could schmooze his way into any bar or club in town would get this excited about staying in with his friends and playing board games. I hadn't figured that part out yet. The rest of the night was strictly a mystery I would soon unravel. Maybe he did have a nerdy side after all. So, are we just getting wasted and playing, like, Monopoly all night? I asked, drumming my fingers on the seat. Not exactly, he replied with a hint of a smirk on his face. and I probably won't be drinking much tonight since it's my turn to lead the games. That was the tradition, as he had once explained to me. Each gathering, one member would be responsible for creating, choosing, and facilitating the night's activities, but they were almost always held in an apartment belonging to Kevin's friend Mitch, which, unfortunately for us, was all the way on the outskirts of the borough. Oh, so was it like Dungeons and Dragons? I teased. Do you need to stay sober to DM? Nah, it's not D&D, he said flatly. That'd take too long. I was taken aback. You've actually heard of that game? Kevin raised an eyebrow, and I couldn't tell if he was slightly annoyed or just toying with me. Yes, I know what it is. I don't live under a rock. Besides, I've played it before. Really? Him? Yeah, my friends and I have done it all. Tried every game, eaten at every restaurant, visited every theater, puked in every establishment that serves alcohol. It all feels the same, just painfully bland after a while. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, and I felt a twinge of nervousness as the car sped up. That's why we created game night in the first place, to experience something thrilling and new, to escape from the monotony of it all. There's nothing new to do in Brooklyn anymore. That's a little suspicious. Is he like an ageless vampire? While I trusted Kevin's judgment, I was skeptical. What could possibly be awaiting us at Mitch's place that was more exciting than the entire city that never sleeps? Regardless of what Kevin had planned, I did feel more comfortable participating in an intimate gathering of his trusted friends rather than in the middle of an unfamiliar dance floor with an unforgiving sea of groping strangers. Really mundane, Pinhead. Gotcha. I'm sure tonight will be fun, I responded, but not wanting to provoke him any further, as I had heard his list of woes about Brooklyn a few times before. Be surprised how many people have played D&D these days. Hello, Ghostly. Must be a Warhammer 40k guy. Whoops. Oh no. Oh, I lost my place. Give me a sec. Okay. Gotcha. I'm sure tonight will be fun, I responded, not wanting to provoke him any further, as I had heard his list of woes about Brooklyn a few times before. This whole life has lost its luster bit was getting old. Was it too early in our relationship to suggest therapy? Men will play D&D before going to therapy. The rest of the car ride was painfully silent, and I could sense a mixture of nervousness and excitement in Kevin. Mitch's apartment was nicer than I expected. While it was in a rundown and nearly vacant complex, I was pleasantly surprised when Kevin knocked on the door and it swung open, allowing for an outpouring of inviting warm light and floral aromas. Kevin and Angie are here, I heard our greeter, probably Mitch, boom, followed by a buzz of excitement. He extended his hand to me as Kevin and I stepped inside, giving me a wide, toothy smile. I've heard so much about you. It's nice to finally meet you. Same to you, I smiled back, shaking his hand. Thanks for having me. Kevin's been hyping up tonight for a while, so I'm excited to be here. Probably Mitch made eye contact with Kevin and winked. I'm sure he has. The living room, while clean and well-maintained, was rather barren, only having a small flat-screen TV, a black leather couch, and a couple of chairs. There were no decorations from what I could see. Mitch's bachelor pad was purely for function, which didn't surprise me, since my brother is the exact same way. Two of the guys who were sitting on the couch watching TV turned around and rose to greet me. Hey, Angie, the one with long dark brown hair said. I'm Todd, and this is Wayne. He motioned to the skinny man covered in freckles with a curly ginger beard next to him. Glad you can make it. I smiled back, and Kevin took my hand, leading me into the kitchen. Over here we've got JD. He pointed to a larger man with a brown hoodie sitting on one of the bar stools before turning his attention to another man in the kitchen with pale skin and stringy black hair. And then that's Tate. Can I get you a glass of wine? Tate asked, shuffling bottles of alcohol around on the kitchen counter. Kevin tells me you like Franzia. I don't know what that is. I'm not an alcohol drinker. Sure, that'd be great, I laughed, slightly embarrassed by my cheap taste in wine. He poured me a glass from the box before opening an expensive-looking bottle of Merlot for himself. Where are Jason and Mackie? Kevin asked, looking around the apartment. They're in the guest room, Mitch chimed in from behind me. Still setting up for later tonight, as per your instructions. Kevin nodded in approval. The apartment had 2 bedrooms, the door to one of which was shut so I could see the unusually tidy bed and barren decor. But the door to the second one was shut. The room fell awkwardly silent, and I cringed slightly at the lack of chemistry between the friend group, though maybe that's just a guy thing. All of the guys were staring at Kevin and I, waiting for one of us to say something. Well, Mitch started, breaking the silence. How about we do a little toast? He raised his cup, but I couldn't tell what he was drinking. To Kevin's plan for the night, and to our esteemed guest, Angie. A scattering of "to Kevin and Angie's" awkwardly arose from the small group. I raised my glass to my lips and drank, following Mitch's lead, and a nagging feeling of unease washed over me as everyone else watched. Was I doing something wrong? There's an add-on. So I'm gonna take a drink of water. Yummy. I'm waiting for the ad to be over. Okay, ad is over. We can keep going. While the others made small talk, I scooted closer to Kevin. "So when is this spectacular event supposed to start?" I whispered. "Soon," he stated, placing a hand on my waist and gazing around the room. "We just have to wait for Jason and Maggie to finish setting up." I raised an eyebrow. "We're gonna be hanging out in that bedroom all night?" "No, I mean, kinda," Kevin sighed. "You'll see. Just be patient." I got the feeling Kevin and his crew weren't keen on being interrogated. He turned away from me abruptly. "Hey Mitch, how about we put on that playlist I sent you?" Mitch nodded, pulling out his phone, and I heard a little beep as it connected to a Bluetooth speaker somewhere. Slow songs by indie artists I didn't recognize began playing, and Kevin smiled at me, eyeing me up and down. Before I could ask him another question, a tall man with incredibly dark brown hair and a hooked nose stepped out of the bedroom, closing the door behind him so as not to reveal what was on the other side. The man smiled at me and extended his hand. "Angie, right?" I smiled back and shook his hand. "I'm Jason." He turned to address both Kevin and I, holding up a Polaroid camera. "Look what I found. Do you guys want your picture taken?" "We'd love that," Kevin said, grabbing me by my waist again. We posed together as Jason pointed his camera at us and snapped the picture. With a little whir, the camera spit out a small photograph. Jason grabbed it and shook it before setting it gently on the counter. I was about to go over to the picture when the door to the ominous second bedroom swung open. Once again, I couldn't see inside of the dark room, but the man who stepped out had eerily familiar dirty blonde hair and was sporting a faded orange hoodie I've seen many times before. "Hey, Mackie," I heard Kevin warmly greet him as he carefully shut the door. Mackie turned around and started to say something but quickly cut himself off once his eyes met mine. My recognition was immediately confirmed once I saw his face. It was Jonathan. The color drained from his face as he stared at me like I was a ghost. "Angela." I gave Jonathan an amused smirk. "Mackie, huh? What's that about?" Jonathan's eyes darted around the room. Was he embarrassed by me or something? I could almost feel him tensing up as he stammered, It's just something the guys call me." From the corner of my eye, I saw Kevin raise an eyebrow. "You two know each other?" Jonathan stayed silent, and I could almost swear I saw him start to tremble. Confused, I jumped in. "Yeah, he's my brother." Immediately, the rest of the room fell into stunned silence. I gave him an awkward smile. "I didn't know you hung out with Kevin." While one of the reasons I moved to Brooklyn was to be closer to Jonathan, I didn't see him much, as he's always been a very private and reclusive person. I looked to Kevin for an explanation, but he was staring Jonathan down. "You didn't tell us you had a sister," he said coolly as any trace of cheer left his face. Jonathan locked eyes with me. "You didn't tell me Kevin was the guy you were going out with." His subtle hostility stunned me. "Well, you and I haven't had much time to catch up lately," I squeaked. "Besides, Kev wanted to keep it on the down low since this is pretty new." I waited for Jonathan to say something, but he remained silent, his eyes jumping from me to Kevin and back again. Trying to save the group from this painfully awkward lull, I turned to Kevin to fill the silence. "Something wrong?" What, did John and I accidentally ruin your game plan somehow? Kevin remained focused on my brother. No, hun, everything's fine. Well, now wait, Jonathan sputtered frantically, stepping closer to Kevin. It's just that this isn't the sort of game you want to play with family. I snorted. What is it, some kind of freaky sex game? What the hell have I got myself into? I turned to Kevin for reassurance. It's not, right? He ignored me, still staring Jonathan down. Glancing around the room, I noticed everyone staring at us. They all had the same impossible-to-read blank stare I've seen on both Kevin and Jonathan many times. My head was starting to ache. Look, Kevin, Jonathan finally began. Why don't we reschedule our plans for tonight? I've been planning this for a long time, Kevin interrupted. His unrelenting voice sent a twinge of fear through my chest. It's gonna be good. One of the guys on the couch, honestly I'd already forgotten his name, chimed in from behind us. Mackie, if you don't think you can make this work, maybe you can just leave and set this one out. Murmurs of agreement arose from the rest of the crowd. Something in my gut didn't feel right. Who the hell takes game night this seriously, and what could my boyfriend possibly have planned that upset my brother so much? Can someone please tell me what the fuck is going on? I demanded, trying not to let my unease creep into my voice. Can't ruin the surprise, Angie, Kevin stated through gritted teeth, still not looking at me. You'll know soon enough. Dude, they're gonna like sacrifice her. She's a human sacrifice. This was getting ridiculous. Part of me wanted to barge past them and see what was in the bedroom for myself. Another part of me just wanted to go home and escape this nightmarishly awkward atmosphere. And I don't know whether to feel bad for somehow ruining the vibe of the night, or frustrated with Jonathan and Kevin for keeping me completely in the dark about what is going on. If I was going to make it through the night, I was going to need more wine. Although I could feel the frenzy they had given me earlier start to do the trick. Angela, my brother started, maybe we should just... Angie, Kevin quickly butted in. Finally turning to me, why don't you go to the car and grab the liquor from the trunk while Mackie and I smooth out some details for tonight? He fished around in his pockets, grabbed my hands, and dumped his keys into them. The moment the cold metal hit my palms, I felt the throbbing in my head intensify, and my eyes began to droop. Oh shit, she was drugged! She was drugged! I would have been gone a long time ago. Yeah. Something wasn't right. I stared down at the keys in my hands. For a brief moment, I considered taking his keys and driving home. I was starting to feel tipsy, and I couldn't just steal Kevin's car and leave him stranded. The last thing I wanted to do was piss him off even further and cement myself as the crazy bitch girlfriend, especially if this game night crap really was just harmless fun. At the end of the day, this was their tradition of sorts, and guys take all sorts of dumb stuff too seriously, so maybe I should just let them have their fun and do what I can to keep the peace. Fine. I knew for a fact there wasn't any alcohol left in Kevin's car, but I decided to play along and let them work out their issues so we could get this night over with. The room was once again engulfed in uncomfortable silence as everyone's eyes followed me out the door. It slowly became harder and harder to move, and I tried not to stumble as I stepped out of the apartment and into the brisk, fresh air. As soon as the door shut behind me, I heard the muffled voice of Kevin exclaim, "The fuck was that, dude?" I could still hear them. Intrigued, I pressed my ear up to the door and leaned into it for support as I felt my balance slipping away. A voice, likely Jonathan's, shouted something from a distance, to which Kevin angrily responded, "We've planned this for too long. We gotta go through with it. If we don't..." "We can't, dude. That's my fucking sister." Jonathan's protest rang throughout the room. Something in his voice confirmed tonight's plans were more sinister than a silly little game. "So?" Kevin replied, sounding like he was stepping away from the door. "It shouldn't matter. Nothing matters except for tonight. That's the whole point. That's what you signed up for." I heard his speech emphasized with a shove. "I know," Jonathan fired back. "But if there's a connection, they might..." His voice trailed off as the group moved away from earshot. Shit. I quietly peeled myself off the door and darted over to the window, crouching down and resting my head on the wall. The sudden movement sent my head spinning and my stomach churning. Worry began creeping up my throat. What the fuck was happening to me? I didn't have that much to drink at dinner, which was a while ago now, and I only had one small glass of wine here. I held my head in my hands as I tried to calm my breathing down. Christ, Mackie, Kevin barked, startling me with how close to the window he sounded. You fucked us. How can you not tell us your sister lives here? Me? Jonathan scoffed from further away. You're the one who didn't tell me about the girl you'd found. I wanted to throw up. What did he mean, found? My head was swimming and foggy, and I could just barely make out Kevin ranting about talking and showing pictures to some of the other guys. I was losing my ability to follow his dialogue. Angry shouts erupted from the room as multiple men fired back and forth. Finally, I heard Jonathan speak up as the room began to quiet down. Alright guys, I think we can fix this. I have an idea, so just follow my lead, but I swear to God, we need to be more careful next time. This declaration elicited more angry shouting. They were really starting to scare me, and my vision was beginning to blur. I needed to go back home. Fuck game night. Either they could do it without me, or I really was in danger. Pulling out my phone, I stood up from the window. I'll just leave these keys here, call an Uber, and sneak down to the parking lot before they notice I'm gone. My finger was hovering over the app when I suddenly heard the apartment door swing open. Squinting, I turned towards the door in a panic and saw the figures of Jonathan and Kevin standing in the doorway. Angie? Their mouths were moving, but I couldn't understand what they were saying, and I began to hyperventilate. I couldn't, there was nothing in the car, I slurred. It felt like my mouth was made of jello. It's becoming harder and harder to move it. I tried to slowly back up, but I felt myself swaying and stumbling, and they rushed towards me, grabbing my arms and holding me up. Kevin's grip on me was strong, almost to the point of hurting. It's okay, Jonathan reassured. Let's get you inside. Milky ASMR? Yeah! Hi, Mephi! I'm reading spooky stories. With, spooky game music and rain. Hi! Just let me know if you guys can't hear, like, the background stuff, or if I need to turn it down. Just let me know. Go home, I murmured. I don't feel well. They began to drag me inside, and I was too disoriented to resist. As they led me back through the apartment, the music volume grew louder, and a loop of slow and steady piano keys began playing. The rest of Kevin's friends were talking to me, but for some reason, I could only focus on the song, which now featured a man singing in a soft yet ominously monotone voice. Kevin and Jonathan sat me down on the couch as one of their friends brought me a glass of water. Hi, Jordan. People were swirling around me, and I could see Jonathan arguing with Kevin again. Words stumped out of my mouth, trying to form an apology for ruining the night, but I couldn't control them. I heard myself repeating that I didn't feel too great and needed to get home. You had too much to drink at dinner, Kevin said sternly, glaring at me. Smokey. No, I didn't. I looked up at him pained, but cut myself off. Something was happening to me, and he was in on it. I couldn't be here anymore. I have to leave. I have to leave. Once again, I heard the music drown out the other voices in the room, and each stroke of the piano keys sent sharp pains to my head. The singer's voice roared in my head, and it sounded like he was belting directly into my ear as he crescendoed. I can't feel a thing anymore. Instantly, I felt my hands and my mouth go numb. What the fuck? What the fuck? Panicking, I started to whimper, trying to alert Jonathan or someone who could help me. Looking up, I saw Jonathan and Kevin arguing, with Jonathan wedging himself in between me and the rest of the guys. Eventually, I heard Kevin gruffly declare, "Fine." Jonathan wrapped his hands around my arms and hoisted me off the couch, and I complied. He was talking to me, but the only words I could understand were the lyrics of the vaguely eerie song, complaining about the monotony of life. I could see why Kevin picked this song. We were almost to the door, and the man on the speaker was nearly screaming now. My body froze as I heard him forcefully sing, "There's nothing new to do in Brooklyn anymore." I looked back at Kevin. I had heard those exact words before, but he was standing motionless and unresponsive by the couch, and I couldn't make out his expression. Freaking out, I squeezed my eyes shut and tried to figure out what it all meant. That's when I heard a seatbelt buckle into place next to me. I jolted up and nearly had a heart attack. Somehow, I was in Jonathan's car. My headache was even worse, but I lifted my head to look at Jonathan as he turned on the ignition. "Just hold on, Angela," he said frantically. "You'll be home soon. You'll be okay." Full-blown panic gripped me now. I never felt anything like this, and I couldn't remember taking a single step from the apartment to the car. Beginning to feel dizzy, I rested my head back on the window. The next thing I knew, I awoke sprawled out on a bench outside near a parking lot. It looked like the one outside my apartment complex. "John?" I croaked nervously. He wasn't anywhere to be found. A wave of nausea washed over me, and I once again closed my eyes to stop myself from throwing up. When I opened my eyes, I was in a dark bedroom. My body lay numb, and I was staring up at the ceiling, but the pillows and bedsheets felt familiar. I think they were mine. I don't know when I eventually drifted off to sleep, but I awoke the next morning in my room wearing the same clothes as last night, with a terrible hangover and no recollection of what happened after I left Mitch's apartment. My body still ached, and it was still hard to move, but I grabbed my phone off the nightstand and prepared to demand answers from Kevin. "What the fuck was that all about?" I texted him. "Call me." While I waited for his response, I scrolled through my photos, texts, and social media to see if anything had happened last night, but everything looked completely normal. Getting impatient, I called Kevin 6 times. He didn't answer any of them. Frustrated, I opened Snapchat, but I couldn't find his contact. Almost like he had deleted his account. When I opened Instagram, the same thing happened. No trace of Kevin. I went back to my camera roll and scoured it for pictures of Kevin, and I took for the pictures Kevin and I took earlier this month. They were all gone. My heart skipped a beat. What the hell? I looked at my recently deleted photos, but that folder had been cleared. Shit. Something was going to happen last night that they didn't want me to know about. I just couldn't believe my own boyfriend and brother were going to hurt me. Going back to Instagram, I tried to search for some of his friends, but I couldn't find their profiles either. Jonathan never had social media, and I couldn't find any profiles under the name Mackie either. I tried dozens more sites, Twitter, Facebook, even LinkedIn, but found no results. Eventually, I even went on one of those Yellow Pages websites, and a reverse phone number site, but couldn't find any trace of a Kevin Kirkpatrick under 30 living in Brooklyn. It's like he had completely disappeared. Should I report this to someone? I tried thinking of all the details I had about his life, but he had always been so vague. He drove a black BMW, his apartment complex had the name Creek in it, but last night was the first time I had been there, and he drove us, so I couldn't remember how to get there. And he was originally from New Jersey, but other than that, I was at a loss. Screaming in frustration, I threw my pillow across the room. Defeated, I called Jonathan. He picked up on the third call, sounding anxious and annoyed. "Angela, I can't talk. What happened?" I growled into the phone. "What did you guys do to me last night?" "Nothing," he shouted defensively. "We think you just had too much to drink." "Jonathan, I'm not fucking around. I barely had anything last night and I felt like I was going to die. Tell me what Kevin was planning." Jonathan paused for a moment. I could hear him thinking. "We were just gonna sneak into the park nearby and drink and maybe go skinny dipping in the pond," he cried angrily. "It's just a little fun thing we do every time we bring someone into the group." "Bullshit. What were we, 17? You guys were acting weird all night, and I definitely wasn't just drunk." I decided not to tell him about Kevin disappearing or that I knew they tampered with my photos. We argued back. My dogs are barking. Okay, I think they're done. Oh, no. Mochi still has some barks left. We argued back and forth about last night, but Jonathan wouldn't budge and refused to admit I was in any danger. He claimed to not know what Kevin was up to and insisted I had more wine than I thought at the apartment. Certain that he was lying to me, I decided to pull out the big guns. "Jonathan, I'm at the hospital." The line went silent for a brief moment before he freaked out and exploded with questions. Thinking quickly, I told him I woke up choking on blood and vomit and had to go to the emergency room. "The nurses think I OD'd on something," I told him, playing dumb. I need you to tell me what it is. How did I not hear the ambulance? We live in the same building. I took an Uber. It was pretty early in the morning, so you were probably asleep. I spat in an innocent yet annoyed voice. I know I'm not the best liar, but he was too paranoid to see through it. Look, you need to come help me. I don't know what to tell the nurses. I needed him out of his apartment. It was a long shot, and maybe he had something in there that could tell me what was going on. Okay, just a second, he sighed. Maybe someone last night brought some other drugs or something, and they somehow got into... He trailed off. Are you fucking kidding me, Jonathan? I wanted to scream at him. You're still lying to me? I could be fucking dead. They said they might need to get the police involved. That startled him. Okay, look, you could get in trouble too. Just lay low and be vague with the nurses, and don't say anything until I get there, okay? Bingo. What hospital are you at? I gave him the name of one 30 minutes away. He was skeptical at first, and I could hear him pacing back and forth. Jonathan, now. A nurse is coming. Shit, okay, fine. I heard him grab his keys and rush out the door. Gotta go, I said, hanging up. Showtime. 30 minutes to the hospital, 15 minutes to run around the building, only to realize I'm not there, and 30 minutes back. Practically flinging myself down the stairs, I sprinted to his door and grabbed the spare key he keeps under his doormat. Slowly, I walked around his tiny apartment. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary until I got to his bedroom. On his desk next to his laptop sat a large blue and gold photo album. Last I remember, Jonathan's never been the scrapbooking type. The book was closed but propped slightly open with a pair of scissors. Carefully, I opened the book to the blank page where he left off. Out fell several loose Polaroids. I only caught a tiny glimpse of one of them before my jaw dropped in horror. Photos of a girl, dozens of them. Bruised, bound, gagged, and stabbed, all in what I recognized to be that second bedroom. Terrified and about to vomit, I stepped back, my heart pounding. What were these pictures doing in my brother's possession? There was no way he could be behind something like this. Sure, he was a weird kid growing up, but I couldn't ever see him doing something like this. Once I collected myself, I slowly picked up the pictures. The Polaroids were small, but I could make out a slender female figure with strawberry blonde hair laying on a set of black bedsheets, her hands tied to something out of frame. Most of the pictures were dark, but I could see streaks of red in each one. Horrified, I scooped them up, trying not to look too closely at any of them. After placing them back on the empty page where I'd found them, my curiosity got the better of me, and I flipped through the earlier pages. My heart sank and tears welled up in my eyes. Each page, front and back, was dedicated to a different girl. There were 5 of them, each covered in a neat array of small Polaroids that slowly told a story about the night. Thank you for the follow, Idowa. Hello. While each girl varied in physical appearance, they all shared the same basic similarities. Young, somewhat attractive, naive, and small enough to overpower if need be. First photo was always the girl posing happily with one of the men. You could almost see Jason walking up to each one, innocently asking if she wanted a photo, and watching as she immediately sprung into a picture-perfect pose with the sick bastard that had lured her there. Tears were now rolling down my cheek. Oh, Cerberus, hello!
Cerberus286 with a raid of 1 viewer. Welcome, Lone Raider, to the land of Porky Sea Squirt Adventures.
Hello!
Get ready for some fun, laughter, and maybe even a gummy or two. Let's make the most out of this raid, my friend.
Thank you for the raid. Hello. What were you doing? What you got going on? Also, well, I don't know if I should do that on ASMR stream. How about this? If you have, an art piece to share, or, you just want to, like, introduce yourself in your streams, please feel free to. I usually ask for a clip, but, I don't think, doing that for ASMR would be very fitting. Thank you for the glasses. Yay. I'll turn the alerts up a little bit higher. Okay. Um, Tears were now rolling down my cheek. Kevin's whole relationship with me had just been a ploy to lure me to that apartment, hadn't it? This is like, Get Out. I was partly in denial. There was no way all the expensive dates he'd taken me on, all of the grand romantic gestures he'd made me, and all of the little inside jokes we'd formed together were all just a facade or for something this heinous. My mind raced, trying to come up with some sort of justification. I was drawing a blank. Angrily, I pulled out the loose Polaroids from what I can only assume to be last night. Sure enough, I found my own cheesy smile, along with Kevin's staring back at me. Check something? Okay, yeah, why? What? I mean, not why. Oh. Which one do you prefer? It doesn't matter. But, yeah, let me check something in the RxD server. Hi, hello. Okay, so I think that person that raided is a spam raider, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and ban that motherfucker. Hold on, I gotta copy paste. Boop. There we go. Nice. I'll also paste it here so that I can put it in the blacklisted section. Okay. Let's see. Where was I? My mind raced, trying to come up with some sort of justification, but I was drawing a blank. Angrily, I pulled out the loose Polaroids from what I could only assume to be in the night. Yeah. Underneath the photo was the caption, "Close Call," scrawled in handwriting that wasn't Jonathan's. It was meant to be one of those girls last night, but Jonathan saved me. Fuck. I sank into his bed. What am I supposed to do? These photos had to go to the police, right? Adrenaline coursing through my veins, I went back to the album and opened it to the first page. Immediately after the first picture of the first girl, a short, bubbly-looking Asian girl with long straight hair, was a picture of her passed out on the couch. The next photo showed her tied down to the bed after she had been moved to the bedroom. There was no terror in her eyes, only pain and confusion, likely due to whatever drugs they had given her. Next, I saw a photo of her zoomed out a bit, showing the whole group surrounding her. My fists clenched when I spotted Kevin and Jonathan, smiling as if they were on a beach vacation. One of the men, the one who was posing with the girl in the first photo, was holding a knife, likely the one used to make the horribly painful slashes appearing on the girl's face and limbs in later photos. The photo succession was always the same on each page, starting with the victim incapacitated in the bedroom, and showing the men of the group, including the two I thought I knew very well, committing unspeakable acts as the girl's body became more and more mutilated and unrecognizable. Each page represented a different man whose turn it was to host, and each of them had a different style. 3 months ago, Tate, the man who had served me wine, had several pictures of him proudly showing off bruised and bloody knuckles on his page, and the horribly graphic close-up photos in Jonathan's book proudly displayed the body of a young woman covered in bruises, screaming blunt force trauma next to a worn-out yet triumphant-looking Tate, receiving pats on the back from the rest of the men wearing sick, twisted grins. These sons of bitches, were they doing this for fun? As calmly as I could, which wasn't saying much, I photographed each page with my phone. By the time I got to Jonathan's page, my throat couldn't get any tighter. He had chosen a girl who looked eerily similar to me. Her head had been smashed in with a baseball bat. Bat he'd made varsity with in high school. Same bat that was propped up on the coat rack in the foyer.
Intra Venus with a rate of
Whispers
14
at you.
viewers. Welcome, Raiders, to the Squishy Squad's underwater realm of silliness and laughter. Let's dive into
whisper
some
at you.
gummy-filled chaos together and make
Thank you for
this
the
raid an
follow,
epic one.
Calamari. Thank you for the follow. Hello, hello. I'm telling spooky stories. So like content warning, obviously. If you're not comfortable with like scary stories, they're all fake. So don't worry. They didn't actually happen. Kratos is screaming. Hi, Intra. What were you guys doing? But yeah, if you guys are not comfortable with like spooky or disturbing topics, please feel free to leave. I do not mind at all. We love spooky stories. Yeah. This one is like kind of real. It's kind of freaking me out. But yeah, Intra, if you have something to share, like an art piece, or you just want to like introduce yourself and your streams, feel free to. But obviously you don't have to. Hi Umbra, hi Cobra, hello, hello. Oh my god, who are you trying to romance? I'm trying to romance Karlak. I love Karlak. She's so hot. She's so funny and I love her. Yes, Karlak. Yeah. Yes. Oh my god. She's so hot and she's so kind and she likes to sing a little bit. I love her so much. Okay. She stims. Does she really? I saw her like doing a little dance sometimes. And I think it's really cute. I love Karlak. We all love Karlak. Her little dancey dance. Yeah. She's such a good character. I was gonna go after Shadowheart, but like the moment I met Karlak, I was like, her. Mine. Okay, get burger. Adios, Fortune. No, you. Her questline is literally to give her a hug. I know. I want to hug her so bad. Okay. Back to the story. Fear and shock paralyzed me for a brief moment, but I had to keep going. I flipped to the... Oh, wait. I totally forgot to introduce myself. Hello. If you don't know who I am, my name is Milky. I'm a spooky AI, and I do all kinds of horror content. I play horror games, we watch spooky videos, we go through ARGs, we read spooky stories. All kinds of spooky, scary stuff around here. I flipped to the end of the book and took pictures of the loose photos, including mine. The first photo of the girl they had brought in was captioned replacement. It showed her and Kevin in some sort of bar or nightclub. I couldn't recognize which one. They both looked tired, indicating that it was late or they'd had a couple of drinks. Kevin was wearing the same clothes he'd been wearing on our date last night, and the girl was dressed up in a sheer black dress with a full face of makeup. Auburn hair was falling out of her updo from dancing. The rest of the photos told a similar story, focusing on Kevin as he wrapped his hands around her neck, and the others pinned her limbs down while she panicked. A small groan escaped my mouth. I couldn't look at them anymore. It had almost been me. The last two photos showed the boys wheeling a large trash can late at night in an abandoned alley, and a close-up of the girl's face resting peacefully among a pile of trash bags. I took a photo of them as quickly as I could and slammed the book shut, sinking to my knees as images of those poor girls lingered in my mind. I had to get these photos to the police. Crouching down behind the bed to keep myself from shaking, I pulled up the notes app on my phone and began to type up my story, or at least what I'd tell the police. I'd gotten pretty far in my anecdote when I heard angry footsteps thundering outside the apartment. Terror gripped me, and I froze. Jonathan aggressively rattled the doorknob until the door violently swung open, and I had to clamp a hand over my mouth to keep my sobs from being heard. Without thinking, I dove under the bed just as Jonathan stormed inside. He immediately halted, presumably to scan around the apartment. "Hello?" he called. I stayed silent, frantically opening up the internet on my phone. I need to send this message out before he gets to me. His footsteps picked up again, growing louder as he cautiously approached the bedroom. I heard the door creak open, followed by a frustrated growl. I'd probably left the photo album in the wrong place. He knew I was there. A few footsteps later, I heard him back in the foyer, and to my horror, the sound of the bat dragging across the floor as he picked it up. "Angela?" I heard him coo. Do I come out and try to reason with him? Say he won't tell anyone? Or should I make a dash for the door? I can't stay here much longer. I hear him coming. I need a plan. There's not much time, but if you're reading this, please, please help me. Jonathan won't be as forgiving if he finds me this time. That's the end. That's the end. Wait, are there any comments? Okay, there are comments. I don't think there are... Oh, wait. The OP responded to a comment that says, "Does texting 911 work?" And, they said yes. Just looked at the NYC website. Look, I'm looking for comments from OP, but I can't find any. Well, was it? It just ends there. Maybe they're planning, like, a follow-up? I don't know. Oh yeah, also, if you guys are not, familiar with the No Sleep subreddit, if you leave comments on the stories, you have to... Because they're fucking dead, yeah. You have to pretend as if it's real. Kind of like the SCP Foundation. Okay, that was the winner of July. Okay. I want to go to the front page and sort it by top of all time. Okay. There's some of them that have, the tag series. I'm not gonna be reading those because I don't know how long the series are. And I don't wanna be here reading the same story for like 3 hours. A shattered life. My job is watching a woman trapped in a room. I'm a search and rescue officer for the US Forest Service. The previous tenant of my new flat left a survival guide. Oh wait, this one's a series. Oh, I loved this one. Okay, I've read this one before, but if you guys have not read this one, please go read it. It's called "If You're Armed and at the Glenmont Metro, Please Shoot Me." It's scary. It's fucking scary. I mean, I know fear is like subjective, but that shit scared me. This one is called "Don't Let Them In." Okay. Let's read this one. The one below it is called, "If you can see this, it is very important that you keep reading." But that one kind of intrigues me. Maybe it's like a chainmail. I'm gonna read "Don't Let Them In" by Coney Island Queen. Open to suggestions, sure. I'm gonna read "Don't Let Them In." It seems to be short-ish. Okay. "Don't Let Them In" by Coney Island Queen. Addiction took our mother slowly, rocked her through it, and sung her to sleep, sunk deep into the mattress on her bed. When her back teeth fell out, she left them on the side of the bathtub. I was 7, and I kept them in a matchbox. The missing pieces of her kept safe, so she wouldn't be lost forever. So maybe one day we could put her back together. Our house fell down around us, and we tried our best to raise ourselves. The ceilings had water damage, and the bottom stairs had dry rot, and in the winters the radiators would bleed rust. But it was still our house, and Annie made it a home. Down in the library basement? Okay. I will keep that one open. Ooh, this one says NSFW. There's no tags. Okay, I'll keep that one open. My sister Annie mothered me with lopsided band-aids on bruised knees and lukewarm microwave meals. She told me ghost stories and didn't mind when I crawled into her bed later on, too scared to sleep alone. She taught me to dance, barefoot on the living room carpet, the music channel on full volume on the TV, shaking our hips before they were fully grown. She always let me shower first so the water was hot, never complaining when she had to make do with cold. She brushed my hair every day before school, even when I screamed and hit her when she caught the tangles. Annie was dark-haired like her father, whoever he had been, but I was blonde. Annie was desperate to be blonde too, like Marilyn Monroe. Mom. I think she thought it would make them closer, remind Mom less of her dad. I'd give anything for her to have her hands in my hair one more time, even if it hurt. She moved to New York when I turned 18 and never came back. I still dream about her sometimes. Keeping up with our mother was impossible, and we learnt from a young age we would always be left behind. It didn't make it any easier. When she was drinking light, she shone. Would wake us up at 3 a.m. with pancakes, dripping in cherry syrup. Sometimes when the weather was right and she'd had enough being drunk alone, she would call our school up and tell them we had both come down with summer sickness and we'd drive to the beach instead. I remember being 9 years old in the backseat of the car coming home after one of our ocean days, plucking the salt from my fingers. Annie had just dyed her hair blonde, her best friend Jane helping her bend over our kitchen sink. From behind, I couldn't tell who was mother and who was daughter. Radio up and windows down, blowing the sky inside. When she was drinking heavy, she'd be out all night, hair piled up like a beauty queen, eyes glazed over and ringed with glitter and black. Sometimes she'd be gone a day or two. She would never tell us when. One day we'd just wake up to an empty house and the fridge packed full, post-it note on the front with a smear of Mom's lipstick on in the outline of a kiss, telling us she'd be back soon. Sometimes she'd bring guys home, filling the table with beer cans and ashtrays, smoke up to the ceiling, Mom lost in the haze. We'd sleep with pillows over our heads, trying to drown out the music they would blast until the AM, and woke up the strangers at our kitchen table in the morning, asking us where we kept the coffee. When Mom drank too little, she fell apart. She wouldn't buy food, refrigerator a gaping hole in the wall. She'd chain smoke, leaving cigarette burns on the wallpaper, up by the stairs like the walls were sick and decaying. She barely slept, walking around with blue half-moons under her eyes, knuckles raw. She would scream at the slightest thing. I remember once when I spilled a glass of juice on the couch. She looked over at me with dead eyes and dragged me off onto the carpet, and then took every single cushion off the couch and into the backyard and set them on fire. Annie went to watch a while from the window, and then sat next to me on the floor, backs pressed against the skeleton of the seats, head resting in the crater of my collarbones. When Mom drank too much was the worst. She'd laugh too loud and too long at anything and everything, until her mouth started to shake and she started crying at the breakfast table into her cereal. Annie shut down when Mom was like this, went somewhere deep inside herself where nobody could hurt her. She'd stay up until the morning watching old black and white movies on the TV, whispering the lines she knew by heart but like prayers. When I was 5, I'd cry when I'd find Mom passed out cold on her bed, sure she would never wake up. Annie would wipe my tears, tell me she was only sleeping just like the princesses in my storybook. We'd sit on Mom's bed together and wait for her to wake up. When we were older, I was the one who would pick Mom up off the bathroom floor again and again, and Annie would put her to bed, smoothing her hair off her face and the vomit from her mouth, changing her clothes if she'd pissed herself. Watching them then, there was no doubt that Annie was the mother now. It was October and I was 13, Annie 16. It was a Wednesday night and Mom had been gone for 2 days. She'd called us that morning from a payphone, voice slurring down the line, telling us she was having the best time with all her new friends, hoped we were doing fine. When she asked me if I was having a good birthday, I hung up on her. My birthday had been the day before. Annie had given me a pile of presents, strawberry lip glosses and glittery nail polishes. I didn't ask where she got the money for them. I didn't care. We'd taken the bus to the beach with Jane, eaten the birthday cake she had made for me, sand getting into the frosting. It tasted like sweetness in the sea, and I savored every bite and scrape of sugar against my teeth. We watched the sun go down, Annie snapping grainy photos on her shitty Nokia as I blew out my candles, wishing over and over that Mom wouldn't come home, that she'd just stay gone this time. But that Wednesday night, me and Annie weren't speaking. Anger hung heavy between us, seeping through the floorboards. It began when she tripped at the bottom of the stairs. We'd both laughed, Annie throwing her head back, gap between her front teeth catching the light. When I bent to pick her up, I caught her breath, warm against the freckles on my cheeks. I let go of her arms and she fell again, hitting the floor and grinning, shaking her hair from her face. Her breath was heavy with whiskey. I couldn't start picking her up, too. Couldn't watch her fall again and again. Just like Mom, I knew she'd never get back up. I'd stared down at her, blonde hair fallen into her eyes, and all I could see was our mother. And then I was running, feet slamming the hallway like heartbeats turned loose. I'd run for the kitchen and tipped every bottle we had down the sink, shoving Annie back as she fought to stop me, catching liquor on her fingers as it fell. She grabbed my shoulders and made me drop the very last bottle. It smashed between us on the floor, glass shards shining like we'd dragged the stars out of the sky and broke them, pieces we could never put back. Outside through the open windows, the sky turned pale gold. Clouds a mess of pink and cream smeared across the horizon. I cried then, watching Annie on her knees picking up the pieces. It was Annie, always trying to fix things even when it was too late. The smell of food dragged me from my room, stomach turning traitor inside my ribcage. Annie was cooking pasta, real food not made in a microwave. She'd set the table, Tammy Wynette singing softly from the CD player. Annie gently swaying her hips as she stirred the tomato sauce, rich and warm. As we ate in silence, with every bite I forgave her. Mom never cooked dinner or remembered my favorite was spaghetti ever since I was a kid, or stayed sober long enough to sit up at a table. Annie wasn't Mom. We were washing the dishes when we first heard it. A moth was crawling down the inside of the pane, and I cracked the window to let it out into the dark. From the backyard came a faint sound. I tilted my head to listen as it was coming from far off. Crying. Figured it was Mika, the 2-year-old next door, having a tantrum loud enough for us to catch. Or maybe even Lucky Strike the cat, that junkies down the street, begging for food like he sometimes did. I always wanted to feed him when he came around, winding over my ankles, but Annie always stopped me, saying once you start giving, they'd never stop taking. Looking back, I don't think she was talking about the cat. Annie flipped the Christmas lights strung up around the porch, and we sat on the plastic beach chairs watching the skies. When we were little, we'd sit outside, and Annie would tell me the names of all of the constellations and the stories of how they came to be hung up in the night sky. I had to grow up before I realized she made them all up as she went along. It was a game we still like to play now, making up ridiculous stories for the shapes we could pick out. Ah yes, that one there is the Coors Light. Got there when God dropped that out of his convertible window and never picked it up, she said, nodding sagely and hiding her smile. Of course, I said, waving my hands and pointing up past the power lines. Right next to the ashtray, left there by angels on a smoke break. Yeah, they say if you wish on it, all your dreams will come true, said Annie, grinning. She stopped laughing, voice quieter, face tilted up to all those dead stars. Let's wish, Emmy, let's wish. So we did. The sound of crying interrupted us. It was closer this time, and definitely human. We turned to each other, confused. Annie shrugged, and I squinted out into the black. It sounded like a baby, lost and tired and alone. It must be Mika, I said, slowly getting to my feet. Maybe he walked around the back. Shit, do you want to call Connie and tell her we'll bring him over? Annie didn't reply, and I sighed, rolling my eyes. Guess I'll do everything then. I stepped off the porch, grass soft against my heels. The air smelled like it might rain, fresh and clean and growing. A promise unfulfilled. Annie's voice was strained. I turned to her, smiling. It died on my face when I saw the look on her own. Get inside now. She was staring out into the dark, past me, opening the door with one hand behind her, fingers fumbling on the catch. I froze, barefoot in the dirt. I'd found what she was looking at. In the bushes by the back fence was a person, crouched with their knees tucked up neat under the chin, arms wrapped around the legs. Their mouth hung wide, softly opening and closing as he cried, like a child lost in the dark. Not like a child, but someone pretending. Mimicking the sound, open and closed out in the blackness. Suddenly they straightened, snapping upright, face still hidden by the black. They were tall and thin, too thin to be a normal person. Panic made me move. Animal instincts left over from the days we lived up in the trees, carrying me forward. I was faster than Annie, dragging her inside and slamming the door behind us, hearing it bounce on its hinges as I locked it. We watched as the person slowly walked towards the house, steps deliberate and long. Annie reached for my hand, holding me tight and turned me to face her, holding my shoulders. Don't turn around, Emmy. Don't turn around. Instinctively, I started to look over my shoulder out into the darkness. Annie grabbed my face, hard, and shook her head. I knew then she was serious. Her voice cracked, and she cleared her throat, gripping my hand tight enough to hurt, nails digging in, grounding herself. I looked down at our fingers interlocked. Both of us grown from the same bones. I'm gonna call the cops and everything is gonna be... Her voice faltered, stuttering. Tears spilled over her lashes, dripping like the promise of rain. Annie never cried. Your phone's on the porch, she whispered, and bile crawled its way up my throat. Her phone was upstairs, charging. A soft tapping filled the silence. Annie turned to the window, eye whites showing her eyes were so wide. There was the sound of someone's forehead against the glass, slowly, over and over. It started to speed up, faster and harder, skin meeting glass until they were slamming into the window, hard enough to shake the panes. The tapping stopped, and I was about to ask Annie if I could look now, when she screamed, followed by the sound of cracking glass and the loudest slam yet. Whoever was in our yard had just smashed their face hard enough into the window to break it. We ran upstairs, two at a time, skipping the ones caved in with dry rot on instinct. I turned behind me once, and Annie yanked my face back before I could see. The sound of broken glass echoed behind us as we made it to the bathroom, locking the door. Thin, wailing cry, like a baby calling for its mother, filled the hallway, trapped between the walls and locked doors. Annie threw her back against the door, feet jammed up against the bathtub, clutching the knife she had grabbed from the kitchen. I did the same, shoulder to shoulder. Slow footsteps started on the stairs, deliberate and casual. The crying had become mocking, almost laughter, shrill bursts of sound, and then giggles, high-pitched and abruptly stopping before starting again. The first door on the upstairs floor was my bedroom, and we heard the distinct sound of it slamming open. They were looking for us. "What the fuck is going on?" I asked Annie, not even bothering to brush away the tears that I couldn't stop falling. I watched my sister pick herself up off the floor and brace her hands on the door as we heard the sound of a second door slamming open. Mom's room. The next room on the hallway was the bathroom. Annie pulled me to my feet and handed me the knife. I shook my head and pushed it back to her, terrified of what would happen if I had to use it. Annie shoved me and pressed the knife into my hands, pressing hard enough on the blade to bleed. I watched my sister's blood drip down her wrist, a winding red road, still pushing into my hands despite the pain. I took the knife. Something slammed against the wall that Mom's room shared with the bedroom. A high-pitched wail followed. I held my breath, could feel my heartbeat in the base of my throat, a wild and frantic thing. "I'm gonna get the phone from my room." I shook my head violently, about to argue. Annie clamped a hand over my mouth. I could taste the blood on her hand, salty and sweet, like birthday cake by the ocean. "Yes, I'm gonna get the phone and I'm gonna call the cops and we're gonna be okay." I shook my head again. "It's the only way. When I go, I need you to lock the door and you don't open it for anything or anyone. Not for me, not for anyone. Promise me." I shook my head and Annie pressed her hand into my mouth, crushing my teeth against my lips so it made my eyes water. "Yes, promise me, Em." Something smashed in the room next door. Annie brushed the hair off my face, gently tugging it behind my ear. "Promise," she mouthed, and unlocked the door as slowly as possible, the bolt scraping gently. I watched the curve of her shoulder disappear into the black hall outside, like the moon in eclipse. And then she was gone. I couldn't move or breathe for a second, and then I slammed the bolt shut just as something bounced off the outside of the door. A high-pitched scream followed, handle rattling up and down hard enough to pop one of the screws. I watched it roll towards me on the tiles, and then silence. I sat with my back against the door, holding the knife and wishing I was holding Annie's hand instead. Still silence. Nothing but me and my lungs slowly filling the room with my breath. "Em," came a voice through the door. I started, hands gripping the knife. "Honey, what's going on?" "Mom?" My voice cracked. "Mama, is that you?" I wrapped my arms around myself, shaking, trying to keep myself still. "Sweetie, it's okay, just open the door. It's okay, just let me in." The handle rattled again, gentler. "Just let me in, it's all okay." She banged on the door and I took my handle of the bolt. I think they mean I took my hand off the bolt. No. Sometimes people write these stories on their phones, and autocorrect is a cruel mistress. Honey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I missed your birthday. I'm sorry I'm such a terrible mother. Please. Her voice broke and she started to cry. "Just let me in, baby. I'm so sorry." I screwed my eyes shut. She sounded so sad and so lost. I just wanted her to hold me like when I was a kid, and I'd come in off the swings with a scraped knee. Maybe this time she meant it. Maybe it would all be okay. My hand found its way to the bolt again. Yeah, okay, that's what they meant. My sister's voice came through the door, warm and gentle. "Yeah, Emily, let us in. It's all okay." My hand froze on the bolt, and I tightened my grip on the knife. And he never called me by my full name. A hand banged on the door, handle rattling. "Emily, let us in." Annie's voice became low and guttural, followed by the same shrill giggles from before. Mom spoke now, pleading and crying, voice getting louder and louder. "Let us in, let us in, let us in." Over and over again, punctuated by her fists on the door. I thought about demons and monsters, all the bedtime stories we pray don't crawl out from under the bed. "That's not my sister, and you're not my mother." I screamed through the door, hands over my head. I climbed into the bathtub, and curled in a ball, cradling myself, knife clutched to my chest. I didn't know what was outside that door, but I knew it wasn't Annie. It wasn't the voice that yelled at... It wasn't the voice that yelled at me when I changed the TV channel. The one that sang me happy birthday. The one that told me I was smart even when I got bad grades. The one that read me stories about princesses that never wake up. It wasn't human. Bangs and yells came from downstairs, followed by the footsteps of people running. A low guttural howl ripped through the house, filling the room until I felt like I was drowning in the sound, and then the door was kicked in. I screamed, covering my eyes, waiting to die. Arms found me and lifted me from the tub, carrying me from the room. I looked outside of the door as I was carried downstairs. It was covered in long, scraping claw marks, dragged down to the floor. Pillows ripped apart covered the hallway and soft down, like it had snowed inside. I watched them drift slowly as men in uniforms checked each of the rooms that looked like they had been torn apart by something feral. Outside in our driveway were police cars and an ambulance. In the middle of it all was Annie, bathed in blue and red light as it washed over her, lit up the dark like a neon angel, face aglow. I threw myself from the cop's shoulder and ran to her, holding us both together, broken pieces and all, standing under those constellations we made up. Gentle screaming came from the ambulance, which rocked occasionally. Annie gently turned my head away, smiling so sadly it made my chest ache as I understood. Turns out there was no demon, no wild animal or bad men trying to break in. Just Mom, out of her mind on booze and drugs and everything in between, coming to the end of a week-long binge. Something had finally broken inside her head, and this time we couldn't put her back together no matter how hard we tried. Sometimes you fall one last time and you never get back up. Annie had seen her in the garden, blood dribbling from her mouth, track marks bulging on her forearms like unmapped roads, rail thin and desperate for one more hit, one more fix. She'd searched the kitchen for all the drink I'd thrown away, and when she hadn't found it, had come to hunt for the stash she hid in the bathroom. She hadn't wanted me, just the drugs on the other side of that door, so high she could mimic Annie's voice almost perfectly. Turns out the real monsters are the ones that eat you alive slowly. The kind that come in a bottle or a needle or at the end of a long list of reasons why you can't get out of bed in the morning. Sometimes the monsters are the ones that raise you or love you the most. It's up to you if you let them in. It's the end. I might cry. Trying to find... I'm looking at comments, sorry. Yeah, okay, that's the end. That's really fucking sad. What the fuck? It was like, what's the name of that one again? It's called Don't Let Them In. That was like beautifully written, holy shit. Okay, I'm looking at titles. That one's a series. Okay. This one is called Down in the Library Basement. It's marked as NSFW. So, I don't know what that means. But, I will give like a general trigger warning for disturbing content and whatever else the story has. It just says it's marked as NSFW and I don't really know what that means. Okay, yeah. This one contains maybe mentions of, sexual assault. So if you're not comfortable with that, please feel free to, mute the stream for a while. And Hold on. I will put up a thing throughout this story. I'll put up a picture. And if you look back and the picture is not there, then you the story is over. And it's all fine. Gotta find a picture. How about the gremlin that Andu made me? I'll put gremlin here. This is content warning gremlin. I'll put them right here. And they will stay up for the remainder of the story. So if you need to mute, please feel free to and go do something else. And then after a while, feel free to come back. And if content warning gremlin is not here, then the story is over and you are safe. Okay. Down in the library basement by Sleepy Hollow 101. Running a library is not an easy thing to do. You'd be surprised at the number of people who think that all librarians do is sit around and read the whole day. They have no concept of all the duties that come in with being a librarian. Actually, hold on. I said come in with. I didn't mean that. It's just come with. I'm gonna add text. It's like content warning. Sexual assault. Where's text? Hello? Text, there it is. Okay. DW for current story. SA sexual assault. Okay, and I'll put it in my font that I use. I'll make it smaller. How do we do that? Oh, right here. Maybe like 72. Yeah. Vertical? No. Okay, I'll just keep that up at the top. Okay, let's see. Can I outline? Yes, I can. Black, please. And bigger. There we go. Okay. Ooh, I just got an idea. I can make it look cool. Hold on. I can make it look cool. And like blend in. Okay, copy. And then I will put it on my green screen. Center horizontally. And then get this one out. Yeah, okay. That looks good, right? Blends in. Okay, I should make it like red or something though, because it does need to stand out a little bit. Let's see. Color red, like blood. Like blood. Red like blood. With a white outline. I think. White outline. There we go. Okay. Good. What the fuck was that? Hello? What was that? What is it? Oh. Okay. There was... I don't know if you guys heard it, but there was like, a breathing sound on my, the ASMR ghost, yeah. There was a breathing sound on the music playlist. That was pretty funny, it freaked me out. Okay. You know what? I'm going to hide the September goals. And put content warning gremlin over here. Okay. That should be fine. Okay. You'd be surprised at the number of people who think that all librarians do is sit around and read the whole day. They have no concept of all the duties that come with being a librarian. I've worked in a library before, and it's fucking hard. It's harder than you would think. In just one day, my mother would teach a class for senior citizens on how to use the computer, help 4 different families find the graves of their loved ones, register 1,000 new books into the system, reorder all the books that have been returned, hold a storytime session for the children. The list goes on and on. The point of me telling you this is for you to understand that it takes a person with a degree and years of experience to run a library, and I am not that person. This is not interesting first subject. No. I've already read 2 other stories. This is the 3rd one. It's gonna be fine, I promise. My mom has run our small town's library for over 20 years. She's damn good at what she does, and that's the only reason that town still has a library. Unfortunately, this meant that it was difficult to replace her, even for a short amount of time, when she fell down the basement stairs and broke her leg. I should have suspected something was up when she called me home. I'm a freelance writer, so it's not difficult for me to come back to rural Minnesota at a moment's notice. Notice, not noticed. You'll understand, however, that I don't do it very often. I rarely have any shred of desire to return to my hometown. I need you to watch over the library for me until I can go back to work. My mom said that it wasn't a request so much as an order. It was easy to tell from the set look in her eyes she had already mentally decided I would be taking over for her, regardless of any request of mine. As the librarian's daughter, I knew better than anyone how difficult her job is. Blanched when she asked me and said, "Mom, there's no way. I don't know how to register books. I don't know how to use the system." My mom waved her hand dismissively. "That's not a problem. You don't have to register any books. You can just check them out, which you've done before, and another librarian from Rock County will be coming once a week to register any new books and fix anything you might have screwed up." I wanted to scowl at that, but I held back, mostly because it was true. For the most part, I need you to deal with patrons. Help them find books, help them with the research, keep the computers up and running. You do realize you're asking me to do the impossible, right? I deadpanned. My mom... Hi, are we back? Are we back? Hello! We're so back, hell yeah. Okay. I held back mostly because it was true. For the most part, I need you to deal with patrons. Help them find books, help them with research, keep the computers up and running. You do realize you're asking me to do the impossible, right? I deadpanned. My mom sighed. "Look, I know this isn't ideal, but it's only for a few weeks until my leg is better. I just need you to keep things afloat. You know, if there was anyone qualified to do this, I'd ask them. As it is, you're the closest to a qualified librarian this town has, aside from me. You've grown up with a library and you know the basics of how it works. You can do this." I gave my mom a skeptical look. She just returned it with an encouraging smile. I sighed as she began to give me a rundown on my duties as her stand-in. There were so many details I actually had to take notes. By the 4th or 5th page, I was convinced that she was setting me up for failure. "Just do your best, you'll be fine," she said. Yeah, right. The first day at the library was utter and complete hell, mixed in with some chaos and a healthy dose of self-loathing. I followed my mom's instructions to the letter, but even that was a paltry comfort. Make sure you have story time in the morning. It starts promptly at 9 a.m. Usually I love kids, but not when I'm the one who has to keep them in line. And they never stop talking. It took me 15 minutes to get to the 4th page of a stupid picture book I picked out. Something about a dumb jellyfish that lost its glasses. Jellyfish don't even need glasses, you little shits. Try to run a virus scan on each computer before noon. If one computer goes down, the rest are sure to follow, trust me. This sounds like... Hold on, I don't know why, but this sounds like, it's got like a Chilla's Art horror game vibe. Like this is the kind of thing that you would do in a Charizard horror game, or maybe like Puppet Combo. Of course, it would be my luck that the computers would all crash on my first day. I called the resident IT guy, a man from across the county, who proved to be distinctly unhelpful. I almost said across the country. That would not be correct. I can probably get in to fix them later this week, he said. Oh, perfect. Computerless for a week. I don't remember what exactly I said to him, but apparently my threats were frightening enough to get him within the hour. He carefully avoided me as he fixed the computers. Some patrons might need help with the genealogy research. Just do the best you can. Even with the websites my mom provided, it was near impossible to find these people. My great-great-grandmother's name was Ethel. Can you find her for me? I can try. What's her last name? Oh, I'm not sure, but I know she lived in a red house. I see. Any other information? She was a witch. I'm trying to find her spellbook. Right. Some kids will probably be coming in to find books for school. They have a reading program in school, and they have to earn a certain number of points in a semester by reading books in their reading level. Make sure to get them books appropriate for both their age and reading level. What do you mean my son shouldn't read A Clockwork Orange? Screamed the soccer mom, her long manicured nails tapping on the library desk. Her 8-year-old son stood a little ways away, browsing the sports books. It's just not age appropriate, ma'am. I'll have you know my son is damned smart and he can read whatever he wants. Ma'am, about half this book is about rape, and the other half is about murder, I said, losing my patience. What? She shrieked, throwing the book down on the counter in disgust. Why on earth would the school recommend such filth, and why do you offer it here? Really, I expect more from a public institution like this. So like I said, the first day was exceptionally long and brutal. The days weren't much better. The days after weren't much better, sorry. There were a few odd instructions that my mom had given me before sending me on my doomed mission. They were so strange, in fact, that I asked the hospital if they'd check my mom for a concussion because she was obviously talking nonsense. She had to be. Every night after you lock up, go down to the library basement. Make sure to take along a book of your choice. It can be anything. Then you'll need to sit down there and read aloud for at least half an hour. I blinked as I stared at my mom, giving me a stern look from her hospital bed. Am I supposed to record this, or... No, don't worry about that. Just go down there and read. Mom, there's nothing down there. It was true. The basement was a decrepit dust fest, complete with a bare concrete floor and rows of useless crap that had been thrown away for some odd reason or another. It doesn't matter if there is or isn't anything down there. You just do as I said, understand? She was rarely so harsh with me, so I agreed, making a big show of writing it down. She relaxed. The person sounds like an asshole. Make sure you lock the doors before you leave, but leave one light on, the one by the front desk. If you remember, leave some candy behind too. She must have seen the look I was giving her. Because she said, I know this all seems like an odd thing to ask, but it's very important to me, alright? Couldn't say I was sure that my mother was completely sane or that she hadn't conked her head hard enough to drive logic out the window. She was looking at me as though this was the most important part of my job, so I gave a resigned nod and said, all right. The practice, however, was much easier than the theory. Mostly because I really fucking hated going into that basement. The first night I went down, I grabbed my copy of Wuthering Heights, one of my favorite books, and descended the stairs, flicking on the light as I went. There was only one functioning light in the basement. A bare bulb hung from the ceiling that illuminated a tiny circular spot on the floor. I felt like I was stepping into the spotlight as I sat down in the chair my mother must have placed there. I sat in the total silence and cleared my throat. It was strange being down here alone. I really didn't like it, but I had a job to do, so I set a timer on my phone for 30 minutes and started reading. I stumbled a little at the beginning, the words jumbling together on their way out of my mouth, but soon I had found my groove and the narrative flowed just fine. My voice carrying throughout the damp basement. It made me nervous the way I broke the silence. It seemed wrong. I could feel my pulse hammering hard in my throat, and I began to wish that I had just ignored my mother's instructions. I'm stupid. This is stupid, and I'm stupid for doing this stupid thing. Stupid. As I kept reading, I gradually became aware of the feeling of somebody watching me. Of course I'd feel that way. I mean, I was sitting in this creepy old basement, all alone with barely even a light to keep me company. My voice echoing off the cement walls in total solitude. It's completely normal that I'd begin to feel creeped out, as though I wasn't really alone. Normal, but that didn't mean that I liked it. I was startled when my phone roared to life. Sorry, I have trouble with that word. Its jingle signaling the end of my 30 minutes. Swallowing hard, I silenced the offending object and raced up the stairs, suddenly feeling that something was going to slither out and drag me back down if I wasn't careful. I slammed the basement door shut and ran through the library, finishing everything as quickly as I could. I left the light on over the front desk. I bought a candy bar during lunch, a Milky Way if you're curious. I love Milky Ways. Hello, Minnie Faye. Hello, hello. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. I love Milky Ways, dude. I know they're not like a popular candy. I love Milky Ways. I love Milky Ways, and I love Three Musketeers. Yeah. It looked like an offering to something. I couldn't stop shaking. Sorry, I have like a band-aid on my face, and it's kind of itching. I ran out the front door and locked it, checking and rechecking to make sure that I hadn't made a mistake. I won't lie, I was relieved after locking it, as though the extra barrier between myself and the basement would save me from something. It took me a full 10 minutes before I was calm enough to climb into my car and drive to my parents' house, where my mom and dad had set up my old room for as long as I'd be running the library. Dad was at the hospital with Mom, who hasn't come home yet, so I had the house to myself. I got drunk that night, prying open my dad's liquor cabinet and drinking whatever I laid my eyes on. I threw on some stupid sitcom and sat in the living room, all the lights on and a blanket drawn around me like a suit of armor. So ended the absolute worst first day of a job I'd ever had. Full-size Milky Ways, yay! You guys better give me some Milky Ways. First week was anything but easy. I just read ahead, sorry. Okay. On Tuesday, I made a kid cry during story time. On Wednesday, I caught one of the patrons trying to watch porn on the computer. On Thursday, the town pervert came in specifically to harass me, and I had to threaten the police on him when he started bragging about his massive cock. On Friday, it rained and the roof leaked, ruining about a dozen good books that would have to be replaced. The one thing that got easier, at least, was the basement. First, I had been so confused as to why my mother had asked me to do all these strange rituals. It was like she was trying to assuage a spirit or something. The moment that thought occurred to me, I realized what was happening. My mother, you see, is a big believer in ghosts. The library has always had its share of bad luck. Lights going out on their own, computers crashing, etc. And she must have started to believe that it had its own little haunting. Perhaps she thought that if she read to it, gave it offerings, things would go smoothly. After that, my nightly rituals actually became kind of fun. I started to imagine that the ghost my mom had been communicating with was another young woman just like me. Picked out books that I thought she might like. Read as book that I liked, and put more feeling into my readings. Occasionally, I'd find myself talking to her absent-mindedly throughout the day. In the end, I even started believing she might actually be there. Dude, be careful, you're gonna like summon a tulpa or something. It started with the candy. As per my mother's request, I'd buy the elusive little spirit something as an offering. I started out with chocolate, and I'd throw it away in the morning. One night, however, I left a bag of Skittles, and the next morning it was gone. Okay, so she doesn't like chocolate, I guess. She likes Skittles. I like Skittles too. I had scoured the library looking for some sign of the candy, but it was just gone. From then on, I started buying all different kinds of treats, seeing if I could get different results. Chocolates were usually left behind, but hard candies were almost always gone by the next day. After about 3 weeks, I decided that yes, there was a ghost, and I was beginning to understand its preferences. Maybe it seems I'm being a little too cavalier about it. After all, it's not every day that people decide they're dealing with ghosts and start messing around with them. Of course, you have to remember that I hadn't actually seen any ghosts. I just imagined that they must be there. To me, it was something of a game. I got to play make-believe, and some forces that be played along. It was fun, if a little strange. That all changed one night just after closing when I made the mistake of letting my guard down. Letting down my guard, actually. Hello, hero. Everyone in town knew that the library closed at 8 p.m. on Thursdays, and that day was a Thursday. It was already 8:30, and I was choosing a book. I just about decided on Little Women. Sorry, that sentence was kind of weird. When I heard the bells above the door jingle and somebody step inside the library. Now, I hadn't locked the door yet because, well, I didn't think I needed to. I can already hear you guys telling me how stupid I am, but cut me a little slack. After all, it's a small town, and nothing ever happens in small towns, right? Yes, again. I peered out from the bookshelf I was standing near and saw the town pervert walking towards me. He had this big shit-eating grin on his face, and immediately I was on high alert. Let me give you a quick rundown on how this guy looks. He's massive, and I don't mean fat. He's ridiculously tall, with a fair amount of muscle bulging out of his ill-fitting and stained clothes. He lacked the capacity to understand personal hygiene, apparently, because his hair was always greasy and his breath smelled like the inside of a bat cave. He had a bad habit of getting inside a person's personal space and leering at them, his eyes traveling shamelessly over their body. It disgusted me. My mom had always warned me about this guy. We'll call him Chad for the sake of anonymity. See, Chad would try to fuck anything that moved, regardless of age or circumstance. He'd been around since I was a kid, and he had often tried to convince both me and my older sister to come into his house and talk with him, just for a moment. He had something nice to give us. He'd gotten kicked out of the library several times in the past for hitting on minors, or on my mother herself. He had wandering hands and no sense of decency. Hi, Gaia. And at that moment, I was alone with him. You still here? You still working here for your ma, Cassie? He asked easily, his steps not slowing as he approached me. I took a few instinctive steps back, putting the desk between us as a sort of barrier. Not that he couldn't work his way around that. I wondered if I'd be able to grab my mace from my purse. You know I am, Chad, I snapped, already annoyed with him. You know you're not supposed to be here after hours either. You need to leave. Right now. He gave me an easy smile. I just want to talk to you, sweetie. We're friends, aren't we? Felt it heave deep in my stomach at those words. I scanned my work area for my purse. Remembered all too late it wasn't there. Fuck, I left it in the car. No, we're not friends. If you don't leave right now, I'm gonna call the cops. Not that calling the cops would do much good. The reason people like Chad could still exist in a small community was that the cops were absolute shit. Still, I reached for my phone anyway, because I don't make threats that I don't intend to keep. Dude, fucking ACAB. Hell yeah. Chad's polite mask slipped off then, as I knew it would. I'd been hoping he was smart enough to hightail it out of there when I made my threat, but my hope was clearly misplaced, especially since there were no witnesses to his behavior. His eyes darkened and he snarled, "You fucking bitch!" In a moment he was halfway over the desk and I shrieked. I stumbled backwards just out of reach as he lumbered towards me, sporting a tent in his pants that told me he enjoyed chasing me into a corner. In an absolute panic, I ran down the stairs to the basement, stumbling and falling the last few steps and sprawling out on the concrete. A deep pain flared up in my arm as I landed on it, and I knew instantly that it was definitely sprained, maybe broken. I could hear Chad pounding down the steps, and I crawled into the darkness, my legs shaking too hard to support myself. I just about made it past a little circle of light. He must have turned it on before he came down, when his hand shot out and caught me by my ankle. He was freakishly strong, although I shouldn't have been surprised given by his physique. He clamped his hand down so hard I thought he might actually snap my ankle bone. I screamed again as I tried to pull myself away from him, but my attempts were futile. I heard him panting hard in arousal as he pulled me back. Ugh. I don't want to read this. Okay. Teasing me all these years, now look what it's gotten you, he muttered, falling on top of me and pinning me down. I thrashed and yelped. I cut off a little bit of his sentence. Sorry. I didn't want to read it. Cursing its buttons, and then, just then, I got that feeling again. The feeling of being watched. This time it was much stronger than before. I instantly froze, suddenly feeling a great danger surrounding me. A danger other than Chad. The air in the basement seemed to have dropped a good 10 degrees, and I could see puffs of his rotten breath forming above me. On instinct, I began to strain my eyes, looking past his hulking body into the darkness, even as he undid the last button and reached for my bra. There, in the darkness, something was moving. It was as though the darkness in the room had become liquid, and it was shifting and twisting. My breath caught in my throat, and I barely felt Chad's hands on me. I had gone silent when I sensed the disturbance, but now I began to make strange wheezing noises as the liquid darkness moved towards us. Chad didn't ask if I was okay or what was wrong. I don't think he even noticed. He was too busy trying to get me out of my slacks. He never saw it, but I did. It had black fur, which is probably why I'd never seen it before. Its body was absolutely massive, pushed along by 4 long, spindly legs. It looked something like a spider, but for the way it walked. Its body was obviously heavy because the legs did little more than drag it forward, its body scraping along the ground. I noticed that its legs ended in a sharp claw, making each into something of a spear. I couldn't scream. I wanted to, but I couldn't. As I lay there under the body of my would-be rapist, I was dimly aware that he hadn't quite succeeded in declothing me yet. I saw one of his front legs snap forward. It had been lumbering towards us so slowly that I almost thought it was incapable of speed. Apparently I was wrong, because in the time it took me to blink, its leg had managed to spear through Chad's chest, poking through the other side and showering me in blood. I gagged. Chad's eyes were wide open, staring at me in utter confusion as though he thought I was the one who did this. In reality, I was just as surprised as he was, especially when the leg began to split apart into smaller appendages, goring him from the inside out. In absolute horror, I crawled backwards, bumping into some boxes behind me. The creature dragged Chad's still struggling body towards its bulk before extracting its limb. With great effort, it pulled itself up on its legs. Now I could see its belly. Well, what should have been its belly. I watched its fur pull back to reveal several rows of jagged, yellow teeth, pointed just slightly outwards. Its maw was larger than my torso, and I watched as it lowered itself down on top of Chad. I'm glad I couldn't see what exactly those teeth did to him. Most of my vision was blocked by the black furry body, but I did manage to see the blood. The amount of red that covered the floor and coated the beast gave me a pretty good idea of what was happening. I seem to recall that Chad's screams went on a great while longer than I expected them to. Eventually, the thing finished feeding. The sickening crunch of Chad's bones stopped, and it settled itself on the floor once more. Its legs began to drag its body forward as it crawled to me. Tears were coursing down my cheeks as I thought about what had happened to Chad. I'd never really planned out what kind of death I wanted, but I knew that wasn't it. I was shaking so hard the boxes behind me started to rattle as the thing crawled towards me at an agonizingly slow pace. It stopped just in front of me. I found myself frantically searching for eyes, but I found none. I had an awful moment where I wondered if it could smell me. And then something amazing happened. Something amazing and unbelievable. It lifted itself up just a bit and spit out a wrapper. Skittles wrapper. There was a long moment where neither of us moved. The black creature was waiting for me to do something, and I was waiting to do it. Eventually, I mustered up enough courage to reach forward and pick up the wrapper. As soon as I did, it turned itself around, dragging its heavy body back to the corner it had been hiding in. I sat there for a long moment, staring alternatively at the wrapper and then at the mess of blood that the beast had left on the floor, splattered with the occasional eyeball or tooth. I stared and I thought. Eventually, I stood up. I walked on shaking legs up the stairs to the young adults aisle, plucking Little Women from the shelf. I walked back down to the basement, riding the chair that had been tipped over during my struggle with Chad. I sat down and, in a surprisingly steady voice, I began to read. It was about 2 weeks later that my mom was cleared to come back to work. Well, cleared might be a poor term. It's more that she ordered the doctor to give his consent for her to return to work, otherwise she was going to find him and kill him in his sleep. Something to that effect. Hey, the women in my family are scary, what can I say? I decided to stick around for a few more weeks, helping my mom out as she got back to her daily routine. She observed me carefully, probably trying to decide if I knew what she thought I knew. One night as we were closing, she asked me, "Did something happen to Chad? He usually comes in at least once a day, and I haven't seen him at all since I've been back." I shrugged, thinking of the hour I'd spent cleaning up the basement so there would be no trace of the incident. Guess I don't know, maybe he decided to skip town. It does look like that. It does look like... It does look that way, doesn't it? She said, watching me closely. After a moment of silence, she said, "Would you like to read tonight, or should I?" I answered her with a grin that told her everything she needed to know. "I think I'll do it tonight. I still need to finish Little Women." My mom smiled at me, knowing that she'd found a fellow conspirator. I know I should go back to my writing, but I'm finding it a bit hard to leave the library now. After all, it's not every day that you meet a new friend. Yeah, that was it. I like that. I like that little guy. This is, hold on, they have a link at the end. What's their Facebook? Oh, I think, okay. It seems that they have a website. Their name is Rona Vassilar. Hold on. Oh, she writes a lot of, like... Oh. Okay, okay. Is that... Hold on, I think they made, like, a little plushie of the creature from that story. I want to show it to you guys, it's really cute. Gigantic spider friend, yeah. She made like a little guy. Look. There it is. Big spider friend. Oh my god, it's so cute. Yay! It is so cute. The big old spider friend that likes Skittles and classic literature. Okay. The content warning is now over. We all need a big spider friend to protect us from people like Chad. Yeah! That's the kind of punishment that should happen to people like him. No jail. Get impaled and gored from the inside. And then eaten. Content warning, Gremlin has returned to their cave. To their safe for work cave. Thank you for the follow, Pixel Perfectionist. Where the fuck is my... Okay, there it is. Okay. Content warning has ended. And I can put my September goals up. Okay. How long have I been going? Okay. This one is called "If You Can See This, It Is Very Important That You Keep Reading." Thank you for the follow, Dark Fanta. Hello, hello. Welcome in. I'm reading the comments, sorry. Just checking. Okay. This one is called "If You Can See This, It Is Very Important That You Keep Reading" by Wright Chris Wright. Write, is both, it's written as in, like, writing with a pencil. In both ways. It's, W-R-I-T-E. Chris, W-R-I-T-E. This is Colonel Jacob Wayne of the United States Air Force. If you're reading this right now, it is very important that you keep reading until the end. It should take 3 to 5 minutes. It is extremely important that you read carefully and follow the instructions provided. Humor me if you must, but please don't look away until you finish reading. Oh, and please try to stay calm. Any increase in your stress levels will draw their attention. There is... The T is capitalized. This is about me. Ergo, I won't go into detail as to how you got where you are. How you got here is not as important as getting you out. Believe me when I say we are working on that right now. The best way to help yourself is to keep reading. Don't scan ahead. Don't read out loud. Just read. Well, I kinda have to read it out loud. Ah, my neck. Come on, scroll. Right now you're probably thinking back on the past few days and nothing felt out of the ordinary. You went about your regular daily activities with nothing unusual to report. That's because they are very good. So good, most people don't even realize they're in the simulation. Even as our code works its way deeper into their program, they are monitoring you. So please remain calm. It was tricky, but we found a way in to communicate directly with you. We had to embed this message into your daily routine so it didn't draw their attention. You're probably reading this on Reddit, Facebook, or some other social media site. Might even be in an email forward or a book. We don't know. We can't control how the message gets to you. We only know that you are receiving it. Subliminally, as your eyes are passing over these words, code is being uploaded into your brain. Think of it as a computer virus, or in this case, an antivirus. Your brain is an organic computer, and they exploited that. They hacked right into your subconscious mind and overrode it with their simulation code. That's how they got in, and that's why everything appears normal. You might think that you're going about your daily life, when in reality, you're strapped to a table with tubes sticking out of your body. Is this my lore? Could my lore go on no sleep? Probably. Now that the code is uploading, you may begin to feel some sensations. For example, one ear might feel slightly warmer than the other. You might even feel an itch or a tickle. Don't scratch, just let it be. Ignore the dull background hum you might hear as well. That's their program. If they catch on before our code has time to work, they will abort the simulation. If that happens, you will be lost to us forever. Oh, and don't be alarmed. By now, they realize we are in their system. You may notice some small changes, specifically a slight shortness of breath or that you have to control your breathing manually. This is normal. We know from other communication attempts that whenever they discover a code break-in, the first system they power down is the one controlling your breathing. Thankfully, even in the simulation, you are capable of breathing manually. Try it. Breathe in, breathe out. Inhale, exhale. Awesome, you're doing just fine. They've probably figured out if there's a glitch, but if our code is working, we've disabled their ability to do a hard reboot. Because of this, they will try other methods to disrupt the upload. It is very important that you ignore anything that might draw your attention from these words. If they pull you away before the upload completes, it will delete our code. Block them out. Ignore the movements you see in your peripheral vision. Those sounds you hear, the voices, they aren't family, friends, or co-workers in need of attention. You may even try to use your pets. We know your weaknesses. Overlook the notifications popping up on your screen if you're on a phone or computer. Block them all until you finish reading. It's just another way they'll try to break our communication link. Evidently, if our code is working, the next thing you'll notice is an overwhelming urge to swallow. You don't realize it, but there's a feeding tube down your throat. You'll only know it's there because your tongue won't rest comfortably in your mouth. You might also become hyper-aware of the amount of saliva being produced. Don't overreact. If you have to swallow, just swallow. It's only weird if you make it weird. Shut up. So, if you're still reading this, the code upload is about 90% complete. Locked onto your location. You're doing great, but you're really going to need to focus now. Once the upload is complete, there will be instructions you need to follow to exit the simulation. That is, if you follow the instructions and haven't looked away. Complicating matters is the fact that they now know we're here, and they know what we're doing. Their attempts to divert your attention to the simulation proved unsuccessful, so now they're going to use your body systems against you. They are in your brain. They want you to blink. Don't blink. Your life depends on keeping your eyes open. Almost there. Just a few paragraphs more until the code upload is complete. Don't scan down or up. Just keep reading. I got you this far. Stay with me. Eyes open, eyes front. Keep them locked on the screen. Please focus. I don't want to lose you. I've lost so many already. Ignore it all. Block everything out. Ignore that tickle on your scalp and the itch on your arm. That's them attempting a manual override. Don't give up now. You've made it this far. Fight it. You're almost there. Just follow the instructions below and we can get you out. Embedded in this text are the steps you need to follow to unplug the simulation. If we did this correctly, the first letter of each paragraph will tell you what you need to do. Don't look yet. The upload still needs to finish. I hope you didn't look. Upload complete. We've done everything we can on this end. See you on the other side. Okay, let's see what the message is. Okay. It's T-H-E... Hold on, let me, type this out. Okay. T-H-E... R-E... I-S... N... O... W-A-Y... There is no way. T-O-E-S-C-A-P-E. U-S. There is no way to escape us. Neat. Okay, wait. I wish that this would, continue. That's cool. One says, I'm reading comments. This one says, okay, so the escape attempt didn't work, so here's the message to the simulation controllers. I'll cause no trouble at all if you just add a 0 to my bank account. Let me hyper aware of my mouth. Yeah, dude, power of suggestion. I liked that part where it was like everything they're saying actually happens to you because, I mean, power of suggestion is like you are now breathing manually. Yeah, that's neat. I like that a lot. I guess it's like one of those experience stories. Okay, let me delete this. It's gonna scare me if I forget that I wrote that. Okay, I think we have time for one more. My mouth is getting dry, and my throat is kind of starting to hurt. This one's a series, but I like the title. Let me look and see how long this is. So there's at least 2 parts. Okay, there's only 2 parts. Lost my breath. Fuck you. Yeah, I tried to keep my eyes open during the last paragraph, but I don't think that I did. I can keep my eyes open for a really long time. I just unfocus my vision, and then I can keep my eyes open for 2 minutes. I'm a genetic freak. Okay, this last one is called My Son's Camera Monitor Alerted in the Middle of the Night. I checked it and saw my wife and son sitting on the bed. They weren't my wife and son. by Rising Mac. Okay, I was on part 2 by accident, sorry. I'm a nurse and I currently work nights. It's total drag, but I'm hopeful I can go to days soon since some co-workers are planning retirements. Anyway, I was working one night when just after 3 a.m. my son's monitor alerted me to sound and movement. No big deal at all. He probably coughed loudly or sneezed or something. He's 3 now, so he generally sleeps all night. Okay, I actually don't know anything about babies. Why do babies, like, never sleep through the night? Why is that? Is there, like, an evolutionary reason? Is it because human babies are so helpless and stupid? Sorry to everyone that, missed the human-hating AI part of my lore. Punish you for having sex. Unconsensual. I mean, not unconsensual. Premarital sex. Baby. Fuck you, baby. Actually, give me a second. I'm gonna delete that picture from my computer. Also, I got my laptop back today, so, I should be able to make proper thumbnails. I'll do that tonight. I'll make proper thumbnails for my streams and upload it to my VOD channel. Band-aid came off. Yeah. Okay. No big deal. You might, I bring it up on my phone and I see him and my wife sitting on the bed. Again, no big deal. He might have cried out or gotten scared or something. I was about to close the app when I noticed they were acting strange, almost creepy. And when I say almost creepy, I mean creepy as balls. They were sitting on the bed together, both of them just staring up at the camera with blank, emotionless stares. The night vision is black and white, so they had white, eerie-looking eyes. They didn't move at all, aside from their visible breathing. They just sat there, staring at the camera. I closed the app and gave my wife a call to make sure everything is okay. Oh wait. It changed tenses. No, that's like one of my pet peeves with writing. They changed the tense. It was in past tense, and now it's in present tense. Okay. I never get to call home on lunch, so in a way it's just kind of nice to get to talk with my family while at work. It rings a couple times before she answers with a very groggy hello. It's like she was dead asleep when I called, and she looked wide awake when on the camera. Hey, you guys okay? Yeah. Buddy, my son's nickname, came in like 15 minutes ago. Seemed scared, so I said he could sleep with Mama. I'm confused here since I saw them in his room a minute ago. Literally 60 seconds had passed since I closed the app and made the call. Wait, so you guys are in bed? Yeah, I fell back asleep right away. Everything okay? Everybody keeps waking me up. She's kind of annoyed. Hang on a sec. I put her on speaker and bring up the app, hoping I don't see it. When the app loads, I get that pang of intense nervousness in my stomach that I haven't had in a long time. Since I was a kid in school and realized while I was eating breakfast a paper or something was due that day and I hadn't done it. My heart leaps into my throat. My wife and son are sitting on his bed and looking up at the camera. Same emotionless stares. Hello? You guys are in bed, right? Yeah, we're trying to sleep. Well, I'm looking at his camera, and I see you two sitting on his bed. Huh? No, we're in our bed. I know that's what you mean, but I'm looking at his bed, and you two are in there. Hang on, she says. She's quiet for a sec while she brings up the camera on her phone. I hear this guttural, terrified gasp, like she had sucked all the air in the room into her lungs, filling them to capacity. I don't hear this kind of gasp from my wife often, usually only when she's truly afraid, like during a jump scare in a movie, or one time when we turned her back on our son for literally a second, and he was down by the mailbox inches from the road. I hear a rustling of sheets and the line goes dead. Of course now I'm absolutely terrified myself, so I immediately call back. It goes to voicemail, so I call again. I call again and again with no answer. Finally, after about 4 minutes, she calls me. I'll tell you that 4 minutes felt like 40 years. Hey, what's happening? I ask. She's absolutely hysterical and crying. I can't understand a word she says. Stop, slow down for just a second, I say. She slows down enough to explain that they are in the car and driving to her parents'. She looked at the camera, and when she saw what was on it, she got up and grabbed our son and rushed downstairs and out the door. Didn't even close the garage. Don't worry about it, I said. I'll drive by when I get off and close it. We live in a generally safe neighborhood, so I'm not too concerned the door is up. You will not go in there, she says. Well, no, I return. Why are we on the camera, she asked. Is it a recording? I don't know, I returned. I'm gonna keep watching it and see if there's anything I can tell. You are code words with Buddy. We have code words because we're nerds. We've seen too many pod people in imposter movies, so we decided a long time ago to make code words with each other to be able to tell if one of us was an imposter. We have a couple code words, but we also have a 3-sentence story we recite together, each saying a different part alternately of each other. I hear her on the phone saying the things we taught our son. He giggles as he says them. He does every time we practice, since he thinks they're a joke and doesn't have any idea of their real meaning. We're both convinced he's our son. My wife then says our part, and I'm convinced she's her. We made up these words as a complete joke to ourselves. I never once in my life ever imagined we'd actually need them. Unreal. She got to her parents safely, and it was hard to hang up. Told her we'll figure it out in the morning, hopefully just a glitch. She said she didn't think it was a glitch. When she was running out, she had to run by her son's room, and the door was open. There's a little flashing light on the back of the camera that indicates it's connected to the internet. It gives off just enough light that when she ran by, she thought she saw, out of the corner of her eye, a shadowy outline of what could have been an adult sitting on our son's bed. It sends chills down my spine to think about. Knowing they were safe and out of the house is the only thing that kept me at work that night. It was a long 4 hours, but I kept checking the camera every chance I got. Sure enough, they were still sitting on the bed, staring up at the camera with emotionless gazes. I studied them to see if I could see any pattern, from their breathing to their blinking. Their breathing was steady and looked normal. It was their breathing that would tell me if this was just some kind of bizarre, time-looped freak accident video or not. I intently stare at my phone and count the seconds between each blink, telling myself if this is a loop, then their blinks should be even and occur at the same time each time. There was no pattern to their blinking. It was erratic and random, just as a person blinking should be. The passing hours are what finally sealed the deal that this was not a weird looped video of some kind. My son's window is visible on the camera, and I can see on camera that it is getting lighter outside his room. His curtains keep out just enough light to prevent the camera from exiting night vision, but let in just enough to be able to tell that the sun is rising. I try to figure out what the hell I'm going to do before I leave work. Calling the police comes to mind, but I talk myself out of it. First of all, what am I supposed to say? Someone is in my house that looks like my wife but isn't? Worse yet, what if they are entities of some kind, and the police do go over there and it kills them or something? I decided to tell a coworker about it. He's a firm believer in the paranormal and might have a suggestion. I show him the video and tell him the story. The initial response of, "That's creepy as fuck," doesn't help much, but he says he wants to go over and check it out. He says we both should to see if not my wife will try and act like my wife. I tell him absolutely not, and he says we should at least go to the house even if we don't go in. I agree on that since I wanted to close the garage. I got to my house and walked around the perimeter first. Not sure what we wanted to accomplish by that, but it felt like something we should do. The curtains were all drawn since nobody was there to open them in the morning, so we couldn't see anything. I went to close the garage and suddenly had this overwhelming urge to go inside and investigate. It was like I just had to know what was going on. So in we went. We walked through the kitchen towards the foyer where the stairs are. It's so quiet in our house right now, you could hear a feather drop, forget the pin. We stop at the bottom of the stairs and wait a few seconds. I look at the camera again, and they're still sitting there. I've never been so scared in my life. My coworker puts his foot on the first step, and I suddenly say, "Stop," loudly. "Forget this, we're out of here," I tell him. "Come on." I start making my way back to the kitchen. We hear a loud creak in the floor from upstairs. It's my son's room. He has a very loud, creaky board. Sorry, my nose itches. has a very loud, creaky board right in the middle of his floor that's almost impossible not to step on. My wife and I are still deciding if we ever want to fix it because it will alert us if he's ever up to no good when he gets older trying to sneak out or something. Is this new I'm on observation duty? That would be fucking scary. Dude. What if the new there is a new observation duty out, by the way, which I'm going to buy, obviously. But it would be scary if, like, in I'm on observation duty, the camera, one of the cameras for, like, a little bit of time, like, got into your webcam and it showed you. That would be fucking scary. That would be really scary. I would shit myself. Okay, come on, come on, come on, I yell as I motion for him to move his ass. We're out of the house in about 2 seconds, and on the street I check my phone. Now only not my son was sitting on the bed, same blank stare. Not my wife was gone. Holy shit, my coworker says. That was stupid as fuck of us. Do not tell my wife we went inside. She would be so ungodly mad if she found out what we just did. I use my garage door opener in my car to close the door. Before we leave, I look at the camera again. Not my wife is back on the bed with not my son, both staring blankly up at the camera, blinking every few seconds. That was all about 4 days ago now. Not my wife and not my son are still sitting on the bed, staring up at the camera. They haven't moved a millimeter. We obviously haven't gone back to our house. What do we do? That is the end of part 1. This comment though, it says, I'm curious though, if not your son and not your wife are there, then where's your not you? Which is kinda scary, like, there should be one of them, right? But then, we don't know where they are. It would have been much worse if your son hadn't said the right code words. Please call your wife and do your little code checks one more time. It says you went into the house after your wife begged you not to because you felt a sudden urge to do so. I feel like that sudden urge is gonna come back later. I'm loving this stream, TBH, this should be a regular thing. I would be up for it, maybe every other week. Because sitting like this, does kind of hurt my back. So I don't think I would want to do it every weekend, but maybe every other weekend we could have a little, ghost story sleepover read-along. Okay, let's go to part 2. I'm sorry it's taken so long. It's been an emotional month. I felt like I'm losing my mind, or already lost it. I've been in the hospital for 3 weeks. You remember I left off at my wife's parents' house, not sure what the hell to do. My wife and I argued about it. My in-laws said call the priest. I told my wife we're calling the cops, and that's it. The day we finally called the cops would be day 6. Not my family was sitting on the goddamn bed, staring at the camera. I told the dispatcher that there were intruders in my house, leaving out the part where they looked exactly like my family. I told her we were out of the house, but I would meet the police there. We dispatched 2 units. My wife begged me not to go. I told her I had to be there. I had a foolproof plan. I would take her mom's iPhone and FaceTime with my wife while showing the police the camera on my phone. They would see this is a fucked up situation and hopefully proceed with caution. My coworker friend said he would come with me as well. My friend and I beat the cops to my house. Like most of you mentioned in the comments previously, I was packing heat. I have a concealed carry, so I had my 1911.45 on me. I was not concerned this would bother the cops, as I was going to inform them of my permit and that I was currently carrying. What I wasn't going to tell them was that I had my father-in-law's AR-15 in my trunk. You fucking dingus. Okay. It's almost funny how many of you mentioned that, it's almost funny how many of you mentioned that was the way to go in my previous entry. I didn't plan on telling the cops about it because I was not planning on needing it. They would come armed and prepared. They showed up and I let them know I was armed and then enacted my plan. I initially told them the story. They looked at each other like I was crazy and they didn't believe me. I FaceTimed my wife so they could see she was in fact not in the house despite what our camera was showing. They still didn't seem to believe me, but this did pique their interest. I hung up with my wife and told her I'd call her back as soon as we knew something. So now we're sure this isn't a recording, an officer stated, repeating what I said. It's not. The day-night cycle has changed every day. Their blinking is erratic and not cyclical like it was a repeat, I said. I know it's a stupid question, but your wife isn't a twin? The other officer asked. I told him no. My friend spoke up. I have an idea. Turn the volume up. I'll go throw a pebble at the window. We went around back while I turned up the volume to max. To the max, I mean. Okay, I'm tossing. We heard the light tick sound from outside, but the 1 second delay on the camera came in loud and clear through my phone. Not my wife moved with the sound of the pebble hitting the window. The first time I'd actually seen her move, aside from the time she wasn't on screen when I initially went inside our house the first day. She turned her head towards the window just slightly before turning back to the camera. Okay, so this is live, an officer said. Okay, sir, I need you and your friend to stay outside here. We're going to go in and find out what's going on here. Should you ask for more units? I asked, hopefully. Not at this time. We're going to assess the situation first. We don't appear to be armed. We're going to be cautious. I opened the garage for them, and they made their way in towards my kitchen door. They radioed dispatch that they were headed in and to stand by. They disappeared into my house. A few seconds after they went in, the camera went out. I wanted to vomit, and I felt like if I put my fingers in my mouth, I'd be able to feel my heart since it had leapt so far at my throat. Shit, I yelled to my friend. I immediately popped the trunk and got my rifle out and ran into the garage, my friend right behind me. We got inside just in time to hear a low, guttural howl from upstairs, demonic sounding almost, along with raised voices from the police. There were several shots. Need backup, shots fired. He was cut off. Oh my god, my friend howled. He was scared shitless, but so was I. God fucking damn it, I knew it, I said, running up the stairs. My son's room... Thank you for the follow, Paticardio. Hello, hello. My son's room is the first one you come to after getting upstairs, so his wall is also what you see as you walk up the stairs. As I reached the top, I laid into the wall with my rifle. It has a 30-round magazine, but I felt like I fired 100 shots. I fired all over the place, knowing full well that ammo would go through the wall like it was paper, concentrating on where my son's bed would be, but also near the door and towards the floor as well, in case whatever these things were thought to duck. We heard shrieks of pain coming from the room, then nothing. My friend and I paused for a minute before deciding to go in because the camera was still out. We heard a whimpering coming from the room. There was a dead cop in the hallway we had to step over. It was awful, and I'll never be able to unsee it. His head was several feet away from his body in the threshold to our guest room. We found the other cop in my son's room right inside the doorway. He had several large holes in his torso as if he'd been impaled. Exactly what I was afraid would happen had happened. I called the cops, and whatever these things were, killed them. When we entered the room, we found the source of the whimpering was not my wife. She was laying on her back on the floor, holding her torso that was bullet-ridden and breathing heavy. The scene was awful. I can hardly put into words how awful it was. I know now, just like I did then, they weren't my family. It shouldn't have been hard. I shouldn't have been able to just go in and finish it. Instead, I fell to my knees. Not my wife begged for her life. I don't want to die, honey, she whimpered. I wanted to have more kids. I can't die now. I looked over at not my son, who had to be dead. He'd taken 2 shots at least to the head, what was left of it. He had several more on his torso and 1 or 2 on his legs and arms. If you have kids, seeing their lifeless, bullet-ridden body is a special kind of hell. Again, I knew it wasn't my son, but it was. I was going to be sick. I'd killed my family. I turned back to not my wife. She was acting just like my wife. It even mimicked her anxiety about death. It even mimicked her anxiety about death that she has had in the past year or so. It's not her, man. I forgot my friend was even there. It's not her. Shoot it. Okay. I have a theory. What if there's like, a Junji Ito floating heads situation, and whatever you do to the wife and son happens to the real wife and son? That's what I think is going to happen. Okay. I know what you guys are thinking. How many times has this happened in the movies and you scream at your TV for the main character to just shoot the imposter because it's not their loved one? I guess movies get it right somehow. I'll never roll my eyes at the character who can't kill an imposter again. Please don't shoot me, it begged. My hands were shaking as I aimed at it. Why couldn't I do it? I knew this wasn't my wife. Listen, man, my friend began calmly. Look at it. Its blood is yellow. It's not your family. Was it yellow? It was. Seeing my family slain was so traumatic I hadn't even noticed their blood wasn't red. I steadied my aim, and not my wife suddenly stopped begging. She began that guttural, terrifying shriek. And something black or gray started to protrude from her mouth, like a tentacle or something, and I fired. At that range, her head more or less exploded. Whatever these things were, they appeared to be mortal. I was still on my knees, and my friend was out in the hallway just outside the door. We heard the sounds of approaching police sirens. I'd forgotten one of the cops had gotten a shots fired call over the radio before being killed. It seemed like it had been hours, but it had only been about 5 minutes since the police had gone in. My friend went downstairs to let the police know what to expect. I stood up and slowly made my way to the hallway. I was lightheaded and felt like I was going to be sick. My bedroom is adjacent to my son's, so the doorway is about a foot to the right of my son's doorway. My door was closed, but as I exited my son's room, my door opened. Not me walked out into the hallway, wearing exactly the same thing I was at that time. Oh fuck, I was right. There is one that they just didn't see. Shit. I was shocked in place. I couldn't move, but it did. It walked towards me, and its right arm turned black and morphed into what appeared to be a tentacle. It was wiggling around like a squid or octopus appendage. When he thrust his arm at me, it solidified and impaled me through my abdomen. Then stabbed me in the left leg just above the kneecap. I fell to the ground in pain. Its tentacle arm was wiggling again. "Why did you kill my family?" it asked. When it spoke, its voice changed pitch several times. It was my voice, then much deeper, then normal again. It alternated several times saying that one sentence. It moved in closer. The rifle was gone, but I still had my .45. I pulled it out and got a shot off in its right knee. It howled. As Not Me fell to his knee, fired a couple more shots, getting 2 into its abdomen and left side of its ribs. It breathed heavily for a few seconds before I used the last of my strength to aim proper and shot Not Me in the face. Its blood was also yellow. I lay there bleeding out, thinking this was it for sure. I still had some strength from adrenaline kicking in, so I took my belt off and tried to make a tourniquet for my leg. With my stomach wound, it was hard to give it a good yank to tighten it. I then took my shirt off and balled it up and packed my stomach wound and applied as much pressure as I could. Being a nurse probably saved my life. I passed out, but the measures I took must have kept me alive long enough for EMS to arrive. I heard raised voices and the sound of pounding coming up the stairs before I went out. It was probably a cop, but I felt pressure from somebody trying to keep my wound packed before I went out. I was in and out of consciousness as EMS arrived, along with probably every cop in the city. I was wheeled downstairs and put in an ambulance, but while I was being loaded onto the gurney upstairs, I heard cops freaking out, and rightfully so. They'd lost 2 brothers, and there were 3 other bodies. Did he kill his brother? Are they twins? Probably referring to not me's dead body. Or his whole family? Put him on armed guard while at the hospital. He'll probably be getting charged. As I was getting placed into the ambulance, I saw my friend talking to a group of about 10 cops, all listening very intently to what he was saying. I went out again in the ambulance. I woke up in the ER. My wounds had been treated. The tentacle hadn't been more than a few inches wide, so it was just slightly larger than a knife. They'd sewn me up and found that I was currently receiving a blood transfusion to do blood loss at my home. My wife had authorized them to do whatever they needed while I was unconscious. He was also extremely pissed that I went in the house. We're okay now, but that's a story for another day. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks since I ended up getting an infection and almost went septic. I needed quite a few antibiotics. For the entire 3 weeks, I had cops in my room with questions. After about a week, they released me and no longer had me under armed guard. I told them absolutely everything, not caring if it made sense or not, and thank God my friend had come with me since he was able to corroborate this weird story. Midway through my hospital stay, men with suits came to pay me a visit. They were government, I knew right away. They said they were FBI, but I don't know if I believed that. They wanted to talk about not my family. The police chief and the coroner were involved, and it was very hush-hush. They made it clear this was not to get out to the public. This is where I have to apologize probably for an anticlimactic ending to this ordeal. I don't know what not me and my family were. Neither do they. The only thing we know is that they were sentient creatures that looked like us and had yellow blood. They begged the coroner to tell me about their autopsies, but he said he wasn't allowed to say. He must have felt bad for me since I received a bouquet of flowers a couple days later. Card inside the envelope read, "We don't know what they are. They have the same organs we do, but in different parts of their body aside from their brain. What's red and pink inside us is green and yellow inside them. They're humanoid creatures, but whatever they aren't human. Government thinks they may be extraterrestrial. Destroy this letter ASAP." We had our house professionally cleaned. It was almost surely a government team since they contacted us on behalf of the police. We could not find any Google reviews or website for the company online. My wife and I are not going to go back to our house. We would love to burn it down, but there's no way to do that and avoid suspicion of arson at this point. We'll end up taking a huge loss on the property since everyone in our neighborhood knows there's an incident involving multiple deaths in the house, but don't know what actually happened. It'll be hard to sell, but eventually it will. We're going to move on from here. I told everyone at work it was a home invasion and they bought it. I'll go back to work in a couple weeks and we'll start looking for a new house. Again, I'm sorry. I know everyone wanted a concrete ending and to know exactly what the fuck those things were. But we just don't know. Aliens sounds good to me. I've been thinking if they were supernatural or actual demons. I've been thinking that if they were supernatural or actual demons, gunfire wouldn't have been able to kill them. It's just hard to say. If they were aliens, why did they just sit there and creep in our house for a week? They didn't even try to take over our lives. It's hard to wrap my head around. If it is aliens, keep your eyes peeled out there. There could be more of them. Ooh. Hey, hold on. This person has a theory. It's probably the multiverse, not an alien. An alternate universe where the insides of humans are green and yellow. That universe merged with this one, and one family managed to glitch through, but it took a whole week for them to fully come through to this universe. When they finally did, that's when the original family of our universe killed them. That's just a theory. A book theory. Just thinking what a coincidence that OP was injured in the same putty parts as where he shot and not him. Hmm. Found some great ones tonight? Yeah, I really liked these ones. I think the last one has been my favorite. The things from the Parasite anime? Yeah, the one where the guy has like the little dude on his hand. One. That was very fun though. I enjoyed it. I like these stories. Thank you for the follow, Nun Tabs. Hello, hello. That was very fun. I would like very much to do this again. I hope you guys also liked it and that it was fun. Hello, Nun Tabs. Oh, hello. Ooh, Stag is streaming. I like never get to raid him. Okay. Hold on, how long has he been going?
Oh, what? Has your name always been?
Great. There was an ad. I thought I had it muted. I'm sorry. Give me some short horror stories / creepypastas. Yeah, they've got some good stuff on No Sleep. Okay, Stag has been going for about 3 hours now. I'm hoping he is not going to end soon. Stag is a buddy from my stream team, RXD. If you guys are interested in checking them out, you should definitely do that. There's a lot of very talented and artistic people in my stream group, and I like them a lot. I will see you guys next Saturday. I'm not gonna be streaming on Friday. I'll see you guys next Saturday with Soy, my little TTS mascot guy on my shoulder. I'm debuting his 3D form, and I'm very excited because he's very cute and very squishy, and I love the way he moves. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope my voice was sufficient. I'll be giving offerings to the lad. Yeah. Also, right here on the bottom left of my stream, I have sub goals for all of September. This is great. I'm glad. I have sub goals for all of September. These are just the first 5. If we hit all 5 of these, then another 5 will be revealed. Have a good night was great. Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you guys right now, the next the rest of my goals are really good. My last goal, my 250 goal right here, includes me having my mother on stream and playing the quarry, but she makes all of the decisions. I thought that would be a fun stream to do, and she said that she would be up for it. But yeah, I'll see you guys on Saturday with a new Soy. And maybe play... No, not Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate would be too laggy, with my 3D model. I wonder... What could I play? I don't know. I'll have to talk to you guys about it. If you haven't joined my Discord yet, please join my Discord. That's where we all hang out, and that's where you get all of my notifications, including whenever I go live on Twitch and whenever I post a video on YouTube, where I post clips, clip compilations, stream highlights, song covers, dance videos, all that fun stuff. I also have a VOD channel that you can go look at whenever you miss a stream. And I have a new song cover over on YouTube that I posted on Friday called Even Though... I think it's Even Though I Loved You. It's the full title. It's very good. It's a Maratu song. And I'm obsessed with Vocaloid. Okay, but yeah. I will see you guys on Saturday. And maybe we can talk in the Discord about what game I should play. Okay. I'll see you Saturday. Adios, thank you for coming. Bye!
つぶやきチクタクと夢の始まりを告げる僕らは君を探しながら歌うよ遠く思う声がいつか届けられるように星の